Father, the Father, the Son. This is all I can send you, Kal-El. It's not who I am underneath that defines me, but what I do. You want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts. Just because someone stumbles and loses their path doesn't mean they're lost forever. You're making me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. I let my father die because I trusted him. Because he was convinced that I had to wait. That the world was not ready. What do you think? With great power comes great responsibility. We are Groot. We are Groot. We are Groot. We are Groot. We're Groot. We're Groot. We're Groot. I'm with you till the end of the line. Tell me, do you believe? You will. Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off. And what are you? Genius. Billionaire. Playboy. Philanthropist. I am Batman. I could do this all day. Kill any god. None of you seem to understand. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. If you're nothing without suit, then you shouldn't have it. It's not who I am underneath, but what I do that defines me. And I am Iron Man. Fourth wall break inside the fourth wall break. That's like 16 walls. I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest.
Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Bit of a schedule mix-up today. Seems to be this week. So apologies for that. Thank you for joining us, and we're looking forward to what we with our guests coming in about half an hour later. But we've got Hawk Saunders from Rising Sun Comics, and we're going to be talking about the G.I. Joe Club and also the convention circuit that the G.I. Joe convention circuit that's happening, as well as that happens every year and so on, but also all the cool books that are coming out from Rising Sun Comics in regards to COBRA the Enemy, as well as G.I. Joe and Action Force and all the rest. So without further ado, hopefully he puts his mic back on.
Hey, Rube, I'm here. I'm excited.
All right.
I've got my signature drink. I'm sorry, I'm having some internet issues, so I'm going to keep the camera off. I'm drinking Cayman Jack tonight, which is a margarita.
Right. It seems to be a bit of a delay there on your end, but and the volume's a bit low on your mic as well. Can you just check the volume there while we just setting up here?
Yeah.
Hey, Patrick, nice to have you with us, mate. If you got any questions, let us know. In the meantime, like, subscribe, and share, please. We really appreciate it. We're building this channel up naturally through actual viewers, and not trying to use some sort of funny business, trying to build it up and then realize half a year later that's half of the people weren't even real but bots. So if you're a real person, which we hope you are, viewing this, that wherever you are, please hit that like button as well as subscribe, and as we keep bringing you new and more interviews, as well as building up the library of interviews with real cool indie creators. And we've got things happening every week almost, and mostly on Sundays in New Zealand and Saturdays overseas. In the evenings, we have our Plunge Pop, which is basically talking to YouTube commentators on pop culture and what they do. And these are guys like, you know, have been doing, been in the industry for decades in various entertainment areas. So thank you. And are you ready to go there, Hawk? Are you set up now?
Yeah, is this any better, Ruth?
No, it's very quiet.
Okay, let me try something else.
Try now. Maybe it's just on my end.
How about now?
All
Is
right,
that
take it
any
away.
better?
Yeah, that's fine. Take it away.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the convention circuit first, I think. I think that was what we wanted to go after.
Yeah, let's do that.
So there's actually regional conventions here in America set up for GI Joe in many different sets at many different times of the year. So some of those are SoCal Joe show. They put on about 3 to 4 a year. There is AR, which is assembly required. That's coming up in November. There's Joe Lanta, which is in the summer. It actually just passed. There's also Toy Lanta, which is a part of Joe Lanta, which has a lot of GI Joe play. Kentucky, there's Kentuckiana, which is a GI Joe show as well. And then, of course, there's Joe Fest. Now, there's a lot of other smaller GI Joe shows that I probably didn't mention here. The biggest, largest growing one is Joe Fest. We try and make that one every year. I think this is our third year to go. But prior to this, we had some conventions, but the main one was actually the GI Joe International Convention, and those stopped in 2018. That was the last time we had a GI Joe International Convention, and that's actually when the club disbanded. Was in 2018. So since then, we've been kind of going to these shows, and we set up in a booth where you can find us. And usually, whenever you find us at one of these booths, whether they're GI Joe or a non GI Joe show, we usually have better rates to find us in person. So if you see us going to a convention, you're going to get a good deal on buying books, and a better deal than say online. And that's to entice people to to pick up some stuff online or pick up stuff in person. Usually these shows are a day or two, and so if you're interested in going to a GI Joe show, Joe Fest is a really good one. Make a plan. Everybody's welcome. You can come down and get your hotel and stay and enjoy, because it's quite a camaraderie. Everyone's going to discuss GI Joe. Everybody's welcome. I haven't seen anybody ever really thrown out. And it's a really good time. It's a really fun time. You get to meet some of the people that worked on the brand. You get to meet some of the people that worked in the industry. You get to meet comic creators. You get to meet content creators and all kinds of things in between. So this is a really good show if you're interested in doing it. Assembly Required is another really wonderful show for the camaraderie and to go find and fill in some of those pieces that you want. And of course, Joe Lanta is a good one as well. Those are probably the three big shows. The SoCal Joe show, which is kind of the local show for us. It's a little smaller, but you can usually find stuff to fill in your collection if you're a toy collector or a comic collector. There's going to be something there for you. So there's quite a bit that way. Now, in recent years, even though we lost the GI Joe Club in 2018, we've actually relaunched the GI Joe Club. James Kavanaugh, is, and most of those that are in the GI Joe industry probably know James Kavanaugh. But we actually relaunched it, and I believe that is under. I'm going to get you that link, Ruth, so you can show everybody. I'll grab that link quick. We're going to plug it in. so that way
Yeah,
everyone
sorry
can,
about
kind
the
of.
popping there, guys. It seems to be like some sort of like a issue on Hawk's end with the mic or something. Apologies for the tech there. So you can see some of the Millerverse comics we talked about this morning. To do with let me just pop this on the side here. So I'll get the link here, but like you can see the different things. Today we're talking about like the COBRA the Enemy. The guys will be here in about another 15 minutes. The artists on that, and we'll be looking at what they've got going on. But here's a G.I. Joe Club. Should be popping up soon. There we go. Perfect. Take away, Hawk.
Yeah, so the GI Joe Club was restarted in 2022, and we've been working on building out newsletters with James Kavanaugh. He's the man in charge, and we're assisting in that task. So some of the artwork you saw this morning was for the GI Joe fan club, and they are currently still putting out newsletters, and there are still some 2022 kits, even though we're in 2023. We know that this is a little bit behind as we're trying to get our feet under us and get this kind of caught up. But the GI Joe Club gets you 4 newsletters a year, as well as a list of events. And you get a package, and you can see this package here that Aru has is in front of you. So there you're going to get patches, a challenge coin. You're going to get customized. There was customized dog tags, as well as a bars bar that you could wear, to show your membership in the club. Now we really wanted the club card, which you do get a card. And in some retail vendors, this isn't just a club card that has no value. This is a club card that'll actually get you a percentage off at some of the vendors. And we've been working on that to say, hey, if they're a GI Joe Club member, because we're trying to build the club back, is it possible that we can get a percentage or discount? And a lot of people have said, yeah, sure, I'll get an extra this amount percent off of it. And that's really up to the vendor, but we usually try to tag that in the catalog. So this new club that's building up, there isn't any action figures yet, but there is some product that's actually coming down the pike that we hope to show sooner or later. Hey, Larry, I saw Larry pop in there. So thanks. So this is kind of what our club does. It is the membership is it's a good one. You get some really custom, unique items that you probably wouldn't have gotten anywhere else. And of course, we do raffles and giveaways at the show. So if you're interested in this, you can still grab whatever kits are left. They may not be customizable anymore, but there are still only a handful of kits left for the 2022 package. And then the 2023 package, which I can't really talk about yet, James is going to, he's going to do a special reveal for that later on. And of course, you got the 11x17 poster for 2022. And the artwork there is done by the awesome, magnanimous Adam Riches did the artwork. So, so it's a very pretty piece. And that was the front cover for the first newsletter. And these newsletters are packed with a little bit of all kinds of information. So they're going to have information such as articles on collecting, articles on comic book collecting, figure collecting, articles on where the shows are going to be, what events are coming up, what new figures will be released within that quarter or within that year. It's going to have some fan fiction in there as well. That's actually being written by Justin Bell and illustrated by some of those gentlemen in the morning group. So they're actually working on that. Leandro actually did the first one. So so this is a little bit of everything. So we believe in print media, and we believe in getting a printed newsletter out to you. So that's what you're paying for, is a printed newsletter. And I think we've got something really cool planned. I think we can talk about this. We talked about that a little bit. There's actually going to be a spot inside the newsletter, I think in issue 3, where you're going to be able to have classified ads. So you'll be able to, hey, I'm looking for this and this and this. Please contact me here. Sort of ad that we're going to start running for members of the club. Now, if you sign up during during the opening time, it's a little bit cheaper. If you sign up afterward, it's probably going to be a little more expensive, and that's just because we're trying to calculate numbers of how many people are going to be a part of the club, and how we get them. How are we going to focus those members? So having good numbers, I think, is really important when you're doing something like this. So we offer a discount if you're signing up early in the registration period. So that's a little bit about the club and where it's at now. And the kits did already go out. The 2022 kits already went out. I would show you mine, but I don't have it readily available right at this very second. And also with that is there is a couple unique items that we're doing inside the club. So my number is actually 005. So I'm number 5 out of registration set, and I think we've so far registration numbers, we're about 500 members already. So it's a pretty good sign up list, and everyone was pretty pleased. We did a custom box for the kits and all of that. I think what's going to be interesting is we're talking about how to do something special for those members that are in the registration. Let's say you register, that there's no lag in your registration process. You're signing up year after year after year, and there's no lag. We're talking about doing something a little special for those members that are continuing to carry on, and members that contribute to articles, contribute to content that's going in the book. We're going to offer something a little special for them as well. So this is meant to be a community that shares the love of G.I. Joe, the love of the collecting, and the love of having companions and or having friends in the group, in the G.I. Joe community. So hopefully that explains it pretty thoroughly. I'm wondering, am I missing anything there, Aru? I put you on mute.
Apologies for that. Sorry. I was just looking up this. We had a YouTube interview about the actual club a little while back. So I'm going to put this in the chat. You guys can about what Hawk displayed as part of the setup there that from last year, and you can check that out there. That's the link for that on that podcast. You'll see all the awesome actual physical things that you get as part of the club membership. And because we've been talking to a bunch of G.I. Joe collectors as well, Big Stu down there in Borgia, who's got his own shop, recently opened a new shop down in Texas. And if you guys want to know what the USS flag looks like in actual size, the G.I. Joe thing, I was quite amazed. Never seen one in actual, I thought it was just some little thing like this big, but it's actually a giant ship, right? And so you get to see that on there as well. But yeah, I think that covers us on most of it. Is there anything else you want to talk about in the way of what you guys take to the actual conventions?
So it just really depends. Yeah, I can talk about that. So the club will be at the conventions or try to be at the conventions, try to have a presence at all of them, because we're not really planning on putting on a convention ourselves. Our intent is to go to other conventions and highlight them rather than put one on ourselves. So that's kind of our goal. And usually with the club, we'll have newsletters that you may have missed. We're going to have some exclusive product, but I can't really talk about that yet. Rising Sun itself will also be at some of these shows, and which will carry probably our back catalog of G.I. Joe books, as well as our creator-owned stuff, in which you'll be able to find us there. And
Sure.
you'll be able to kind of pick up and fill in some stuff. We try and always bring something new to the show if we can. So we try not to go with it, everything being out of the back catalog, but usually something new we're bringing to the show. And sometimes that's action figures that we've made. Sometimes that's new comics. Sometimes that's posters. It just really depends on what we've got going on at that particular time. Yeah.
All right, we've got our
It's
first guest up.
good.
So I'm going to bring Gavin on for as you can carry on, Hawk. I'm just going to bring Gavin on. He can introduce himself in about another 5 minutes.
So we got Gavin.
Carry on. Yep.
Hello.
Hey, Gavin.
Gavin, do you want to introduce yourself and let folks know who you are?
Yeah, sure. I'm just sort of an artist based in Melbourne, Australia, and I've just been doing some work for Hawk at Rising Sun Comics. So that's what we're here to talk about.
Cool. Hawk, carry on with your convention talk, please.
Yeah, no worries. So we're talking about conventions, and we're talking about what we bring to conventions. Usually, we try and set up a booth, and we usually try and do a panel if they'll let us do a panel. Last year we did actually creating comics at Joe Fest. Or this year we did creating comics at Joe Fest, which was what's the process in which Rising Sun uses to actually create a book, because we actually create them with a team. And we're going to get more into that later, but we usually try and put on a panel. This year we had several panels at Joe Fest because we were involved in so many things. So we were, as those of you that don't know, we actually publish After Action Report. That's one of the books that we actually put out, which we worked up as being their publisher, and we published 4 or 5 books through them. Those are actually how to collect comics, and we've got a character guide coming up real quick. And then we also, with After Action Report, Josh Baylock was actually a guest for us there, and Josh actually did how to create comics with me. He was on that panel with me about how he creates comics, and it was an amazing panel. I wish it was recorded because that was really worth watching, to see his process and where he's coming at and his new books and all of that. Where mine was more of a technical upload, his was very amazing, and I think that the crowd just kind of ate it alive, with what he was showing, which was really good.
Okay.
So we did those 2, and then of course we tried to have a Rising Sun panel, and then I usually try and do those. Sometimes I'll do unique product that never made it out. That's kind of one of my key things. Is I really like to look up books that never made it to actual print. They might have been in the works in some case, and that's kind of my caveat. Every collector kind of has a thing that they're really, really focused in, and I think that that's mine. I seem to be focused in books that never made it out. So I have a small collection of unique content like that inside publishing. So some of them are Marvel books, some of them are IDW books, and most of them are G.I. Joe related. I have a couple that are not, but overall they're pretty focused.
Okay. So before we head off into the interview with the guests, we've got Torrey joining us now. But before we do that, I want to look at this thing that you've got going on in December as part of Christmas, and then we'll head off into the actual conversations with our artists. So this is this Christmas donation special. What is this about?
So this is something we've been gearing up now for a little while. And what this is if you actually buy if you buy this Christmas donation, you're going to get 3 books, and we're going to donate. And these are trade paperbacks, and we're going to donate a trade paperback to charity. Some of those will be to libraries. Some of those will be to different places. But this is a great way for you to get 3 Rising Sun books. These are actually Red-Handed Studio books because we publish Red-Handed Studios. And this is a way for you to get 3 Red-Handed Studios books and get us, and we will donate one of those trade paperbacks. So that's
Right.
pretty, it's a pretty good deal. They're basically paying $10 a piece plus shipping, and you're going to get 3 complete trades. So what we have there is we have Dawn of the Whirlwind and Power Struggle, and of course we have the book in the middle is our sci-fi western series. So Reap the Whirlwind, and of course Power Struggle, and then there you go, Dead Reckoning, which was done by Scotty Watson and Carrie Kelly, and they're kind of the writing and art duo team that are working on it. I think we've also got they work with a couple different people, and Harold Edge, of course, Harold Edge does a lot of the coloring, so he makes a pretty good book as well. And Harold's worked for us on a couple different projects, and so is Carrie and Scotty. They both kind of work for us on little projects. But Red-Handed Studios, this is their particular books and how they focus and put them out. So a little bit different. Again, $29.99. Sign up on the Christmas special. You get 3 trade paperbacks, and we will donate 1 trade paperback to charity.
All right, I think we're ready to head off into with our guests. So we got Gavin and we've got Torrey. And can you please Hulk, introduce the two guests so we know who they are, and then we can ask them a bit to introduce themselves about their backgrounds and stuff. So let's take it away.
Yeah, so we've got Gavin O'Reilly. So he is coming all the way from Australia, and Gavin is a bit of a penciler, and he's a colorist, and he's worked for us on many different CTE books to try and help get the series completed, get it done, and get it out there. And we've also worked with so he's working on several different things. During his time with us, I think he's been with us maybe about a year now. Is that right, Gavin?
Yeah, I think it's like probably about a year and 6 months, wasn't it?
Okay,
I think.
all right, year and 6.
Yeah.
Torrey Franklin is coming all the way out of Chicago. He's a penciler. He's done a little bit of coloring on a few projects here and there, but his main thing is penciling. And Torrey's been with us for several years. I think 5 or 6 years with the company at this point. So
okay, I'm gonna I'll put up some artwork, and so tell us a bit about yourself, Gavin. We'll start with you, and then Torrey, we can get back. Get you.
I'll go on mute for you guys. Go for it.
Oh, don't worry. No, not much to tell really. I just sort of amateur artist, and I started getting interested in maybe doing some comic book work. I initially was trying to, before I found Hawk and his crew, see if there was someone else to do like a web comic just jointly with, because I was like, I'm an okay artist. Can I really do it entirely off my own bat kind of thing? And so I was a little bit like wanting to team up with someone and sort of practice the craft a bit. And in doing so, I found Hawk and his guys, and just wanted to work on these projects just so I could practice the art of comic booking, really. So that's really all about me. Torrey, I don't know if you want to go introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. Well, when I met Hawk, I didn't know anything about comics. I read them, but I had never created any comics or drew any comics. And I was basically doing like portraits and like realistic artwork, paintings, stuff like that. And I'm kind of like a work in progress. I think I've learned a lot, but I think I still got a lot left to learn as far as like making comics and creating comics.
Yeah, very much the same with me. It was that, you kind of want to start out somewhere, and so you have to look. You kind of want to look for someone to work with. I don't know if that was the same for you, Tori.
Yeah. I wanted to learn basically.
Yeah.
So I was going to share some of your guys' work here. So we'll start with Rory here with his pencils and stuff. So now I apologize. I had to step out. One of the screens was bugging out on me, and I want to make sure that it wasn't going to interfere with what we're doing here. So we've got here. This is from I believe from Horse God or something like that. The artwork there am I wrong there, or am I right? I'm just going to pop it up here. Give me 1 second. And there we go. Okay. So this is one of yours, Torrey, if I've got the right file.
Yes, correct. That's from Horse God.
Awesome.
That's
Excellent.
one of the cover ideas, I think, from issue 2, maybe. Yeah.
Now this is digital, isn't it? Do you start with digital and with traditional and then go to digital, or do you go with digital straight away?
It depends on where I'm at. Like if I'm somewhere like on the train and I just got my sketch pad, I'll sketch something and then I can like transfer it over digitally. But if I'm at home, I just got my tablet and I'll just draw it from right there.
Awesome. Let me grab another one here. Like I'm looking at the works here and give an idea to the folks what they can expect when they come to CTE Books of your work, as well as the other works that you're working on with through the studios for Rising Sun. So I mean, this is awesome. I find animals the hardest thing to actually ever try to attempt to draw, and you just seem to like do it so easy. And I'm sure Gavin, as an artist, you probably maybe feel the same way about animals, because you got to make them look so natural and stuff. Like, I mean, look at
all that new anatomy you have to learn.
Yeah, it's like you're taught not. You start off by what is the human anatomy? With a 6 scale, what are they got to do with the size of the pencil? And next you got to move on to animals, and it's like, wait, what? Watching animal sculptures are the the most interesting things. Like when you see bronze sculptures and stuff, they just stand out, right? Because you've seen so many human ones, but when you see an animal sculpture or animal drawing, they really tend to stand out. So let me grab this other one I want to show you here.
Well, you guys just see the finished product. You don't see how many shots I had to take in the gym.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we had a chat earlier this morning with Marcelo from Argentina, and we are just saying the same thing. 70% of a book is research, 30% is what people see, and the final product. And that's they don't realize how much time it takes to actually work up a page and work out the panels and stuff. So this is what I was thinking about earlier there, when I was talking about like how it's the motion and everything works. You got animals here, you got birds, birds in flight, and then not only that, you're looking at the background as well that's got to go in. And so there's a lot of work going in. And I mean, a lot of this is just from imagination. After all, this is a fantasy book, you know. And so you're looking, is this like Athens or is this Greek mythology we're looking at here?
Strongly based on Greek mythology.
Right. So you can kind of tell, what the sort of looks like in Europe in that time. And normally I can tell by the trees. There's something about the trees and the buildings is what usually gives it away. Like you got here at the bottom here on the left. I'm not sure if you can see that on the screen. Just at the top there, you can see, let me just move us over. Yeah. So the bottom left corner there, you can see the buildings there. But when you're looking at the top page, you don't sort of see that straight away. Whether is it Pantheon? Am I right there over the pavilion?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, so it's really cool to see. A lot of. I think this is what I find really interesting about non-superhero books, that you can and which can cross over the hero fantasy books, right? That aren't mainstream. That there's so much more time and effort taken into making them look good, and the time the artists take themselves to make it look good, because you're trying to sell a book that's not based on any IP. There isn't like 80 years of freaking history, out there. This is a book that's putting out there for the first time. There's a lot more effort.
And the hardest part, it was creating the characters for me.
Yeah.
because there was like no reference.
Right.
Like for the horse guy character, there was no reference for that. So I had to, a lot of runs and a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, to use a very
Yeah, I wanna
apt analogy, you can't rest on your laurels when doing a
Yeah,
historical piece.
that's basically it, right? There's nothing,
yeah.
you're not like you don't have like 60 years of Spider-Man to work off,
Yeah.
Right.
And I think a lot of non-comic people understand that there is this whole coming from nothing, basically, you're building up some writer's imagination, and you're going, okay, is this what's working? And then you got to go, well, that doesn't look right actually on paper, and what works
It's
and what doesn't work in the
it's
in a
so
writer's head.
hard. It's so hard, but when you finally get it to come together, it's so fulfilling.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also,
Yeah,
you're
I
kind
mean,
of set for. Sorry, yeah, you're kind of set for life. Because you've like studied the Pantheon and Greek architecture, you're then the guy that knows their Greek architecture and everything. You
Yeah.
can apply that in other places.
Yep.
Yeah. And
So for
so
those of you that don't know, this is a new book coming out from Rising Sun. This is actually in the creator-owned status, and this is shared with the Douthat Universe, Douthat Press, where Rising Sun owns half and Douthat Press owns half. And so Torrey is working up the Horse God, and it's a script that we've been working on for quite some time. The writer is phenomenal. We've been in question as to whether or not the writer is still around or not. I haven't been able to get a hold of him, so there's a question as to whether or not. But we've got a 6-issue series, and you're going to see that eventually come out. Right now, Tori's still working on that. So this is an exclusive right here on PlungeCast.
So now, as we move into the CTE books, is this one of the pages from CTE here, or am I wrong on that? Or is this Torrey? This is your work, right?
Yeah. This was from a book called Tall Tales.
Right. That's
Yeah.
another Rising Sun book.
Yeah. This was my first project.
All right. Is this Vietnam? Am I looking at Vietnam here?
Yeah.
Army barracks?
This is like a flashback scene to Vietnam, while Bill G.I. Joe is having a flashback.
Right.
And I believe the cover is also in there, Aru, for this.
Yeah, I'm just about to bring that up. So the cover I have is 63. Is that the one we're looking at here?
I believe it is. Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay, let me just pop that up. 63. Here we go. There we are.
That's it. That's the one.
Yeah, it's a cover.
Cool. Let me just get you guys. So this is issue 63, and is this on its way in, or this is May 1919? Is this the month of the year are we looking at here?
That's the year. But CTE works a little bit different. So what we did then, and you're going to get some information about CTE in a bit, but we did a digital release. So you can actually find these books unfinished on our website, and then the team continued to piece them together, and they made a complete book out of it that we go to print. And actually, this was on subscription. So I'm going to talk just. Is it okay if I talk a little bit, give them an idea of what CTE is? Okay. So CTE was an archiving project, and we call it CTE. That's just what we call it in house. The book is actually called COBRA the Enemy, and it ran for 100 issues. We actually did 100 issues of it. We stopped at issue 100, and a lot of it was archiving material. For the first 50, it was very heavily archiving material, and this was material that was made for fans by fans online, and we kind of gathered it up and finished it off and put it into a print format. So, and that took us up to 50 issues. And then what we decided to do was we still had some other stuff left over. that we actually put into production ourselves. And 63 is actually one of those pieces that we put into production ourselves. Some of this stuff is related to the Sunbow era of content. There was a Sunbow season 3 that was intended to come out, and we of course are not animation, so we decided to actually make it into print comics, and that's what makes up the back half of the 50 books.
Right.
So,
For those who are unaware of the Sunbow and the G.I. Joe link, do you want to tell us a bit about that? Then we'll carry on with CTE.
yeah, certainly. So, so in the 80s, Hasbro was relaunching G.I. Joe into G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero, and they wanted to make sure that kids could get their hands on it and consume it in any which way possible. So they created what is known now as the triangle of marketing. And the triangle of marketing is product, which was the toys and T-shirts and things that you could play with. Pair that with a way for them to consume the stories, which was the comic books, and that was made by Marvel Comics and Larry Hama. And then the third leg of it would have been television. So not only did they decide to go to television, but they decided to go to animation. So they had animation commercials, animated commercials for the product, as you can see here. Here's a ad for the G.I. Joe series, and then they put out this series, which ran. This was not a Saturday morning cartoon. This was actually ran after school every day. So the first one was like, I don't know, 20 or 40 or 40 episodes. So you could just keep watching and watching, and they went on to do between Sunbow and DIC, I think it did something like 6 or 7 years of content that you could actually watch for G.I. Joe. So this was kind of their marketing triangle, and it worked brilliantly. I remember as a kid coming home and setting up, you raced home because you wanted to try and catch G.I. Joe, and Transformers at the time that it was coming out. So I was very much heavily into the cartoons, and I had very few comic books, but at least in their triangle, I had, I was definitely in their consumer role. And here's the DIC series, which followed it, and which it technically it had 2 seasons and a mini series that they put out. So. And they switched to DIC mainly just because of cost-cutting measures, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that they had something for kids to consume on TV.
Right. So I'm about to bring on Chad here, who's just joined us, and let me just bring him in if he's ready. All right, here we go. So this is Chad. Chad, do you want to? Hawk, do you want to introduce Chad, and then I'll get Chad to talk about, give a bit of a short bio about it, what he does.
Certainly. We've got Chad Rose, and Chad is a colorist. He's also been to Joe Fest with me. He was a seller extraordinaire on the floor, and Chad is he's got a very unique style to his coloring. He's also a big horror fan, so if you want to talk about the darker side of life, he would be down for talking that.
Excellent. Well, I'm definitely going to have to chat to him about that because I love horror, and it's you got to have all sorts of genres around to keep everybody entertained, and I think horror is just amazing. You got to scream and yell and cry as well as laugh in life. So Chad, tell us a bit about yourself there, mate.
I love art. I love movies. I love all nerdy stuff. So I saw the ad on one of the message boards, so I just gave it a shot, and Hawk gave me a chance to come color. I didn't know what I was doing, but I've learned a whole lot since I've been with them, and I can see the difference between my first book and my book I'm working on now. It's like a huge difference. So I'm a teacher during the day, but I love the art and do that stuff at night.
Yeah. And that's I find that quite interesting because a lot of people, come into the scene like, this is it, this is my job, this is what I want to do, and then they get business made when it doesn't pick up everywhere. this what's having a side, like actually having a full-time job is really good. And because that means that you can actually do your labor, to put the food on the table, and then you can actually enjoy your, what you enjoy at home in your own time and free time. I think that's pretty cool. And I think you'll find a lot of indie creators are like that that they have a full-time work, and then they'll go home and do their comics, and so how long have you been doing coloring? I mean, it's quite different, to being a first off, what do you teach? I should ask that.
I
We'll get
teach
into that.
studies in school, social studies and ELA. I've been doing graphic design for a long time, but only been coloring for maybe 2-3 years, something like that. So I learned just on YouTube and things like that.
Right. So you don't actually have a like artist background, but that's something that you picked up by actually watching YouTube videos, which I've done a lot of, along the way. And I think that's pretty cool that we have it so easy now with, with tutorials and stuff. So, like you said, you discovered and through chat and stuff like that, or boards. How how'd you do that? Where did you see the boards and stuff? And how'd you get involved?
The guy I learned to color from online. He had a message board that he requested you look for if you're trying to find different odd jobs and things. So I checked. I forgot the name of it. So I checked, and I just happened to see them looking for colors. So I just gave it. I just had my portfolio, and they let me get on.
Yeah, awesome. So let's see. So this is. Let me get Hawk back on, and I'll get you guys to to ask questions and stuff, because he knows you guys better than I do. So, and I'll ask questions along the way as what I find interesting about it. So Hawk, let me unmute you. No.
Yep, I'm here.
All right. So I'll get you to talk about the work that you guys are doing with CTE and carry on from there. So I'm going to bring up some pages here. So this is.
Rick, can you also bring up the risingsuncomics.com thing?
Sure.
And let's show them where they can actually read some snippets of these books, so we can kind of show what it is that we're doing. So where we're at now is we're probably up in the 80s. We're still working on this, but we're somewhere in the 80s. So we've got about 20 books to go to finish, and they're in various states of completion. So that's just kind of the way it goes for us as and I think someone put this best is, we take it slow and we get it done. So here you can see online, you can see we usually try and finish the cover, and then we're going to show you a preview of what's in the book itself. So you're going to see some pages and unfinished pages at this step. And eventually when it gets to print, you're going to see finished and completed pages that we can show. And how we work is we really work in teams. I'm a very big advocate for not inking your own work. I like it when someone else inks your work, because they can spot some anatomy issues that you may not have saw before. They can fix a few things that maybe you weren't aware of, and on top of that, the inker and the penciler has to be a bit of a marriage. They have to really complement each other. If it's not improving the work, then we're headed in the wrong direction, right? And I think that's part of this whole process. So here we're looking at Andy Feeke's work. He's still penciling. He's been working on this series. These are actually thumbnails of Andy's. This is not completed pencils, but thumbnails. He was in the thumbnailing stage whenever we got this far. He's probably listening in right now, I'm assuming. Probably watching from afar. But Andy is more than welcome to join us if he likes. So you can see that this is just our thumbnail process of how we might actually lay out a book. We're looking for composition. We're looking for story pacing before we move on. His thumbnails are a little tighter than some other people's. To me, a thumbnail doesn't have to necessarily be tight. It's not really not the end of the game. I'm really looking for just composition of the page and composition of the pages. Story pacing.
By tight, you mean like the details actually on the page, on the
Correct.
panels, like facials and stuff like that. Whereas just like, and everybody works differently, because they're trying to convey what they're trying to convey in the thumbnails. And like, some people do stick figures like me, and, or just, compose a whole bunch, mash up a whole bunch of images and go, this is what I'm looking at. But, he does do a lot of detailed work here from panel to panel. As you can see, there's no features on this last panel, yet there's features on the middle panel on the right there. And I think, it's either or, whatever somebody's, happy working with, as long as, you've got the, let me see, if you've got, what you need out of it to let the artist, for himself, right? If he's penciling his own work, to know what he's trying to do for memory's sake. And a lot of time it's got to do with memory and remembering what they were trying to, the artist is trying to do for himself later. Like I'll put notes as a writer, I'll put notes that maybe never get used. But if you're penciling, right, you can't put, you don't want to like be going note here, note here, note here all the time. So I think with an artist, he's just going, okay, I'll just note this down as part of like, that's the way the eye's going to look in case I forget later. But I think this is great. I mean, like, every artist has their own way of doing things. And I think that's the cool thing. And, but guys, Torrey, how are you finding this whole process of working on these different books?
I love it. Like I said, I started out on Tall Tales, which was like a branch of the G.I. Joe. And now I'm on like a Greek mythology horse god book.
Yeah.
So I love different projects and the different genres and stuff like that. I think it's really cool.
And I think that's a cool thing about working with a situation like this, where you can actually move from like saying something like a soldier action adventure type book, right? And then you can go on to something, that's based on actual franchises that's, been around for what, 60 years? Is it 50 years for G.I. Joe? And then you've got something that's totally fresh that you're working with the horse god link. And that way, at least you can, you can actually move in-house on different genres and be challenged to do that. I think that's the cool thing about something like that, is where you get to be challenged to stretch yourself out. And I find that sometimes artists, they get bored if they're not challenged.
Yeah,
do you
exactly.
feel the same way?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What about yourself, Gavin? Do you feel the same way? If you're not being challenged, that you're not, you don't feel like you're being pushed enough, or how do you?
Yeah, I think there is always that fear that in the background of like, oh, am I stagnating? Kind of feel, that like, is this, am I just phoning it in now? So you're always looking for a chance to like push yourself just a little bit more. And I think coming back to what you were saying, this is why it's kind of great. Like, I know we talk about like indie creators, it's working on their own thing. It's this great, romantic, image of the artist, doing their own thing. But I'm also kind of a big fan of like this, we've got a pile of scripts, pick one from this other writer, work with it kind of thing. And I think that just kind of breaks you out of your own like thinking about things, or you're like, oh God, I'm going to have to draw this. Why do they want me to draw it this way? Or, it's like, and that's just great because it makes you grow as an artist kind of thing.
Kind of like this end panel here, kind of feels like that, right? On the screen I've got here. I'm not sure if you're able to see it, but like, it's that little, what? Is there more? What? It's just got this classic, it's like down on your knees and you're going, okay. And and it's you. The other thing, like a lot of times, a lot of people talk about the imposter syndrome. I think every writer and every artist has had it at least once or twice in their lifetime. And I think something that I think a lot of people need to note is that we're all learning out here, and we're all working out here to find our little footing. But the imposter syndrome comes from like actual confidence, and that lack of confidence, I should say not confidence, but lack of confidence comes from comparing. And the problem is when you start comparing, you're never going to feel good about yourself if you start comparing.
Yeah.
And I think I had that early on, when around about 2007, I was like, there's so many friggin' comic books already out here.
Yeah.
There's so many.
How am I going to see that?
There's 80 years worth of stories out here. What am I going to add to this stupid thing, this industry? And I was like, but each one of us, has something to bring. And, and that might be something that somebody actually likes and enjoys. And we hope more than one person, but, yeah.
At least a few people. But I think that's also coming back, like you were saying, but you also kind of tighten up and you don't start doing like the work and you slowly like lose that practice a bit. And so because you're afraid to go out, and I think this is also why I kind of wanted to work on like someone else's project, because I knew like if I tried to do my own project, I'd be too precious about it. You'd get to the end of page 3 and think page 1 looks like crap. You'd be like in this, you'd never get it done. And because you'd never get it done, you'd never get feedback, you'd never go out there, and you wouldn't just do like the raw work of it. So like being able to work on someone else's project and the deadline, we don't really have deadlines, but we have, getting the work out once a week, that routine of it really just helps you, because you're like, oh, do I want to worry about this hand? No, I've got to, you got to put it out there, and everyone says, oh, it looks fine. What are you complaining about? Or maybe have another go at it. But yeah, I just find it's like, again, that working with others as opposed to like, just being alone. I know, like you can kind of get out there a bit more. You can kind of practice it a bit more and focus on different aspects of your art as well.
Yeah, I think actually, like comic books, like, I mean, you can have, you've got some people who are like artists and writers, and there aren't that many of them, right? There's very few that I actually like that, like,
pull those two skills together.
Yeah, like Frank Miller and something, someone like him. But even with him, he's got editors, people are looking over his shoulder, making sure things are right. But when you're working in a team, I'm always working with someone, because I'm not an artist. I'm a designer and letterer, right? But having an artist actually come back with some amazing work, you're always like, you get blown away. I mean, I get stuff from, I'm working with about 3 different artists, so I get 3 different styles of work, but each one is bringing something amazing into their own genre. And I think that's the cool thing about this. Why I talk about genre here, because like, you've got war, and you got this genre of war and so on, and kind of like a Western feel to it. And then you've got the other ones where you're talking about the Greek mythology and stuff. Now, Chad, are you still with us there? Now,
so I'm gonna, I was gonna interject here and just real quick, and then you can check and have it. So what Gavin is talking about is these 2 teams, Millerverse and CTE, or Cobra the Enemy. We actually work in what is known as a bullpen style.
right.
And a bullpen is where we actually go to a meeting just like this, and we are going to review each other's artwork.
Right.
And we're going to look for things that may be out of place, or things that we feel that needs work on it. And that weekly meeting is a push for you to actually bring work to the table and actually have it reviewed by your peers, so that you can actually put out better work. So that's what he's talking about in that regard.
And even when you kind of know it's not perfect, you kind of still feel you got to put it there. You can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So
I'm going to bring up this page here. Do we just?
Yeah. Sure.
Let me see if I've got the right one. Which is one of your works, or is this one of? Man, I hope I've got them on the right one.
Oh yeah, this one.
This yours, Gavin, or is this Torrey's?
This is one of mine.
Right. Yeah. So like, this is is this basically what we're talking about here, right? Bringing in and saying, is this what we're looking at here for this? And we're also looking at like, the red ink and the blue ink, which people, which is before you do the pencils, right?
Well, I just did this to keep myself sane, because I work entirely digitally. And like sometimes when you're putting something that you really need to, like, you can't fake the vanishing points or the geometric lines. You kind of have to like keep it perfect and put it aside, and then you can put in like the organic shapes and the waves and the fluff around it, kind of thing. But yeah, that's the way I work with
both traditional and digital. You're talking about here, or
I work. I occasionally I'll sketch something out on a page just for a layout, just to like, oh, how hell am I going to do this? You know, kind of asking myself. Actually, one point I'd like to bring up, because I came to digital like very late. I think I was kind of like, oh, if you want to be online, you got to do you got to work digitally.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really struggled with at the start is when you erase a sketch line and you've got it up to 100, it's completely gone. You know, but when you're working on pencil, you've almost got like a tiny guide. Still there, and it kind of just helps you hone in on what you're talking about. And because I remember my sketches really like, I was like, oh, why are my sketches looking so dead? Like, why are they looking so like I can't seem to hone in on anything? And I realized if you just turn it down to like 80%, whatever brush or like pencil you're using, when you erase it, like you kind of still have just the hint of where you've been. So it lets you hone in. Like it was just like one of those, no wonder, like, and that's kind of like one of the things I sort of had to teach myself that I didn't even appreciate when I was working in pencil, was that because you've got just that hint of a line, even when you completely erase it. With digital, it's completely gone.
Even the was it indent into the paper, it still remains there slightly, that you can like basically sketch out.
Yeah, and it just like it helps you hone in on something. Yeah.
Was it difficult going from, being late, because a lot of people have gotten on digital early on? Was it difficult for you to actually transition between the two?
It wasn't. It was a little hard at first with the sketching, I think, because I hadn't done like any color. Like, I'm not like that artistically trained, but I'd done like no color work until I switched to digital, and then it was like, oh, this is so liberating. To work in digital. So it was a little hard, like going from sketches to on a paper to digital. But like I said, when I started to do digital work, it really gave me an opportunity to practice my color, and like practice that sort of thing, because one of the things I kind of wanted to do was to like practice coloring other people's artwork. Right. Which I know these days you get.
I'm going to pop up a color, one of your colors. I've got an image here, so let's have a look at this one. So,
see, this is a really interesting one, because I just don't draw like this, like that heavy black. And so it was so interesting. It was so like, occasionally frustrating, but really rewarding to try and work with those, like with an artist that really like pushes that black and has those really bold outlines. So that was a really,
it's got a real noir feel to it because of all the dark tones there.
Exactly. And so like for a colorist, like you're like, oh, where do I go? Where to push tone and leave it, how flat do you want to keep it, things. But yeah, that was a great experience. I think this was my first one, and so it was like completely different from what I had colored before. And so, again, it's that kind of experience of when you're working with someone else's work, you practice your own craft, but in a way that's also kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Again, you're really out of your comfort zone, kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing with working with teams and working on other people's work. You do get challenged in seeing what they're bringing, and I love the tone. Like it's got this real cool feel to it. It's all sort of, the two marries really well, because one thing about art is when you see it, you know it, right? You don't have to go, but when you see it, it just works. And I think, and that's the thing about artists, is that we're very visual, and so when we look at something, it works, and usually if it doesn't work, we know it doesn't work, but it just works because like we're saying about the noir look of it, the feel of it, you almost feel like it's you'd watch this in like a 1960s colored film, right, or 70s colored film, because it's got that really works really well, like a detective novel type feel to it. And Yeah, sometimes like I mean the palette itself is beautiful. I think was it the
Cheers.
palette that you decided to choose for this, or was it chosen for you?
No, I had full control pretty much of my colors. I like it's. I don't. I know some like artists like deliberately like limit themselves to a palette, and but I kind of it's never kind of crossed my mind to approach it that way. I think it's just kind of something you kind of have to fly with as you're doing it. Like, oh, is this going to be too bright? Is this color just completely, not in this universe kind of thing? But yeah, it's like I said, drawing other people's art and being pushed out there. You got to try new things occasionally. So again, that's and different approaches.
Torrey, I was just talking about palettes, color palettes, right? So I'm looking at this one here in the sense of the same, thing here. So you've got a very minimal look to this because it's a flashback. Now, what the same question I'm going to ask you here is: this is your choice of color palette, or was it chosen for you?
I think it was like, if I remember correctly, it was like a group input thing because I wanted to make it look like a flashback, like a dream scene, and you don't want to use like the full colors. You want to make it kind of look like dreamy. So this was like a group input project or idea.
So I like it. I think it's really well done. I mean, I do a lot of flashback scenes for story elements, right? And so the next one. So I'm going to just bring up another page just to make sure that I'm on. I've got.
I was satisfied the way it turned out in the end.
Yeah,
I was pretty happy with that.
Just thinking if like, now if this is the one. Just checking if this is the This isn't. This is Chad's one, isn't it? Sorry, Gavin's one again. So let me see which one I've got here from you. Bring it up and so yeah. So I'm going to show this page here because this you can see that I'm not sure if it's the same book, but the difference between the the work here. So you guys can see what I mean about like how you've got the two different variations. And it looks really cool in both, So this one here, is this, who's the colorist on this one, Hawk?
Oh, this is the same book. This is still Tall Tales. It's just not the flashback scene.
Yeah, who's the colorist on this one, though?
Gosh, I don't, I don't remember, but I know what book this is. Who did the color?
You're the artist on this, right, Torrey?
Yes, correct.
Right. Yeah, so just wanted to show the difference between the flashback and this. So if it works so well, even if this was the book, the color version of it. So you can tell what's the backstory and what's the current. And so it's really cool to see that because I think the color palettes, when it comes to colorists and stuff like that, a lot of people don't realize that there is a lot of thought goes into that as much as into actual pencil work and actual lettering and story wise, because a color work can actually either lift the book or downplay what's there, and between the two it's really cool. So you can see, I mean, with this mountain scene, is this like is the forest scene in the background here?
Yes,
Torrey, or
yeah, these are supposed to be trees, like they landed in like a open field.
It's really cool. I like it. It's got this real, man. It's got. I feel like you really put a lot of effort into your backgrounds, and it really lifts what's going on. Because when you put the actual figures and everything on it, it just feels like it's another part of the story. And I think a lot of time people don't think too much about the backgrounds, but a good artist can like really make it work. And this page really works. I love big, huge splash pages with little, panels on top, just lifting, because what's going on, and then you go, what's happening around it, and it's just great. Chad, did you want to pop in and talk about your coloring process as well? I mean, you're kind of like the newbie on the team at the moment with these guys. So what's it been like for you, working with this team?
Yes, I feel like a newbie too, but because I learn so much every week. But I don't know, flat in it, then just trying to figure out colors and trying to figure out how I want the feel of the book to be. And then I just go from there, and I be nervous coming in on Wednesday, seeing if it's all right what I did or what I need to change. But mostly just figuring out the style I want the coloring to be or the way I want the book to look.
Yeah. Yeah, and the cool thing about having teams is that other people in whatever areas, like, I mean, you've got someone like what's an old hat like Hawk,
Yeah.
with the whole G.I. Joe thing. Is like, what's he, like about 100 years old now, with that sort of thing. And then got someone like me who's only been around for about 15 or what. And, you got so much information from guys like Gavin and Torrey coming on, as well as, not only that, you've got like a slew of like, other people out here at Rising Sun that you can always bounce off. And I think having a lot of people don't realize what the bullpen is. The bullpen is set up by the Marvel bullpen. Like if you look at the back of the old Marvel comics, you'll find it's Stan's bullpen and so on. And they talk about where you just have a whole bunch of people, like in a studio, who work and bounce off ideas, and they just go take their page and go, oh, this isn't, what do you think of this one, right? Is this working or is this not working? And this is basically what Hawk was mentioning about how you got an online bullpen where you guys show up and chat to each other about it and discuss. And I think that's really cool. I like the whole idea. Once again, reference to the Bible, right? It's the dirt, which is like iron sharpens iron, which is like, people rubbing off each other, with, especially in this thing, of your talents. And it's really cool to see that. What has it been your experiences like working together on these projects, as in this bullpen as such?
Well, if it was up to me, I would probably never finish a book because I'm always second guessing myself, and I'll be like, I'll turn in work for the week, and it'll be like, I think this is okay, and the group, they'll be like, this is amazing, like and like I think that's what I appreciate most is the output from the other guys.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. It's that kind of, I was always in the school of, put an artwork away for a few weeks and then come back at it with fresh eyes. And you can't really do that with a comic unless you want, put out 3 pages a year or something like that. You kind of have to like, now or never, decision time. Is that hand going to be like that or like this kind of thing? And so that's another, again, making it a routine, putting it out there, getting the feedback, and people like, everyone's going to notice that I fudged the perspective, and everyone's like, oh no, that looks fine. Or like, getting really nervous about things that nobody even says anything about. Yeah.
I'm the same. I get nervous too about things and people don't even really say anything about. But I learn a lot just from watching other people's artwork and their styles, and I learn so much just by listening and listening. Most time I don't talk on our meetings. I just sit back and just listen and just soak it all in.
And also it keeps you pushing that bar, because I'll get burnt out some weeks and I'll be like, I'll slack on my artwork, and they'll let me know, like, no, we've seen better from you. Like you should go over this again. Like you can do this better.
I always feel bad when I I almost like talk too much and say, oh, maybe you should have a this thing. And I just think Torrey must be just like rolling his eyes and tearing his hair out, just like, do you know how hard that's going to be? It's that.
And what's interesting, I think it's kind of funny to me because sometimes we don't always agree, right? And we'll go through this voting process, and if there's only 4 of us in the meeting on that day, it's a hard vote. You know what I mean? You're like, there's no tiebreaker. Where do we go?
It's that. Yeah.
But I was going to tell you, the colorist on this book that you've got up in the background is Randall Kaufman.
Right.
But you do have some of Chad's color work in there too. Some of his, he was working with textures, and I thought that that was really interesting.
Mm.
So he's got a book in there in his folder that he had some textures that he was working on. The pencil work's a little simple, but the texture work was just so in depth. He was starting to really kind of get some pretty in depth textures.
I'm
I
wondering if this is the one you're talking about here. Is this it here, or am I on the wrong one you're talking about?
That's one of them. Yeah. Because
Yeah.
if you look at it, I mean, there's quite a bit of texture work going on here
Mm.
in order to push the book into its next phase.
Yep.
And so this
So
book came back very simple, and it needed something to go further. But go ahead, I'll
right.
let you talk.
Yeah. So I was looking at the screen here. So this is an actual monitor, isn't it, that he's got on, and I see what you mean by the texture, like it's lifting up the lines. When you actually go in on like on a screen, it's really good because it's actually setting it up. Even here, you can look at the difference in the water here and the tanks. Each one's different, and yeah, that's what I mean by, like, sometimes the colorist can lift the work,
Mm.
and depending on what they're doing or what sort of work that's come in, and so you look at the different textures on this page, it really sets it up and makes it more than what it is there, and especially these panels here, and then you've got this one in the background as well as the color, and so you kind of like, sometimes you kind of feel like, okay, am I doing enough? And sometimes you can't sort of like keep. I think a lot of times if you keep trying to perfect, it actually messes up work, and sometimes you just got to leave it, kiss, right, keep it simple, and I think this really works in that sense. Now, I like the idea of that you guys get to actually vote. I know that, like, sometimes when you guys have too many people having too many opinions, majority rules can actually you know be the deciding factor of what's going to work on the day or not, and you just got to be willing to agree. One thing, we're talking about learning of other people. Early on, when I was getting into coloring and didn't really think about coloring, but I was looking at it. I remember, I think it's Jeff Darrow, who's the artist on what is now a TV show, animated TV series called Warren Ellis's Freak Angels, and this is way back in around about 2010, and he was on Facebook and stuff, and I was like, I'm having trouble coloring. I don't know how to color comics. I can paint. I'm fine when I'm painting it. Painting a friggin' canvas, I'm good. But when it comes to actually digital coloring, I have no idea. He said, well, hey, look, I have this channel, on YouTube that I do, and go have a look at it. And, and he was like, I was like, whoa, I see what you mean. And I was like, I just copied his coloring style, and just over time I learned to like work it my own way and figure out how to layer using, like wipes, using all different, like, with a spray can and stuff like that. Because I use CA.P.A. paint. I'm not sure if you guys know that, but that app, but like, I mean, a lot of people know more about Photoshop, whereas CA.P.A. paint is actually way cheaper and more geared towards comic artists and writers and creatives. But it kind of really, for me, like, you go from like not knowing how to do colors and suddenly having someone like professional at his game, like Jeff Darrow. I hope that's spelled, I'm saying the right name, but of basically saying, hey, I've spent 30 years, learning how to be a colorist, and an illustrator. Now take this 30 years of knowledge and use it. I think that's sort of what I think your ballpen basically has become, like somewhere where you can actually have these, people at various levels of their game being able to come in, say, hey, this is what I'm working on. This is my skill level and stuff. And you get to hone your skills as well as share your talent as well. I think that's something that people don't understand, is that when you're in this sort of situation where you're working in teams, you're actually sharing your talent and you're passing on your knowledge. And it's really up to the artist or the person there who wants to take that knowledge on or not. And I always say, like, in that situation, it's really up to you to decide whether you want to take that knowledge on or not, and whether you want to own that or whether you want to learn or not. Because a
And
lot
like,
of people carry on.
oh, I was just gonna say, like in our group, I love it because there are no egos. Like if we vote, not one person is gonna say, "Well, I don't think this is right." They take that input and they say, "Okay, well, I'll go back and I'll work on this and I'll fix this."
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm a stubborn kind of person. I'll probably go, yeah, and then I'll go away a week later. I go, yeah, they were right.
Yeah, right.
No, I thought you were going to
I'm
say
so,
you'd
yeah.
like filibuster on the floor or just keep talking until we eventually agree with you. Filibuster strategy.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put this link up here, and we're gonna have a look at this one that
it's quite
issue 63. So we can see all the different colors here. Carry on,
it's
Paul.
quite funny because we have had a couple of filibusters. You talk about that, Gavin, but it's happened before where someone really wanted to argue the point. Some of the guys in the past, as we've gone through. I wouldn't say we've gone through. All of those gentlemen that worked on this book are welcome at any point, any time to come back and work on the book or come back and just say hi, come back and check in. This is not a closed door sort of thing. And, some of the guys take a break. Some of the guys need to take a break and then they come back later on. We've had a couple of people that have done that. Some people feel like they've burned out. They feel like they've learned out. Feel like they've kind of hit a brick wall with what they're learning. And the most common thing, though, has been for CTE. And this is, I'm not for certain it's a negative, but it's probably think of it more of a positive. Is that usually what happens is they get really, really good, and then a bigger studio or a bigger entity grabs them and starts paying them some serious money to do the work. And I think that that's always a positive whenever that happens. So we've had several people that have left that way, and then we've had people like Perry Constantine, which is the letterist that we've had for the last 4 or 5 months now, who is just he comes in he's already sharp. There's nothing that really needs to be done. He's on his game. He's ready to go. He's got it all done. There's nothing really that we need to do. It's very minor stuff whenever Perry hits his book for working on his pages. So just to kind of like lay that out, and Randall Kaufman, if I didn't mention that earlier, Randall Kaufman is the colorist that you were looking at here, Aru. But so yeah, the filibuster did happen a couple of times, and I think that it happens early on in the team, usually when they're first joining, and then I think you kind of you begin to understand that that's not really going to serve you in a group
Yeah.
like that.
The teething process, right? The early on,
Yeah.
sort of like figuring out who's going to work on this or isn't going to work. And I think that's good to have it early on rather than in the middle or at the back end. Now, let's see. Is there any other ones you guys want to talk about, Hawk, before we move on?
Any other books? Is that what you're saying to talk about?
Yeah, as part of this CTE thing.
Oh yeah, there's so much to say. I mean,
Right.
what did we could talk about this for quite some time. And here's what a lot of people don't know is that and here's a first for you. So Devil's Due put on and so a lot of people don't understand this, and I'm going to explain it. Those covers that you see on CTE, almost all 100, except for Torrey's cover. There's a handful of covers that don't fall into this category, but it's literally like I think it's only like 4 or 5. The Devil's Due was putting on a cover contest back in the early 2002 or somewhere around there, 2003. So the cover they chose never even made it onto the front of a book. It did get printed, but it got printed as this like thumbnail in the back of one of their books. which was kind of like cheating, in the process. So they were looking for talent. I gathered up those covers, and I think there was something like 200 and something covers. And I kind of filtered through what was the best of the best. So when I say this is an archiving, it really is an archiving. There's so many fans that have put in their work and effort and time on these books to make them what they are. So all of those covers are actually the Devil's Due covers that were not chosen. And then we went back in and cleaned them up the best we could and try to complete them off and actually put them on the book. So a lot of guys wonder, I know the guys, if you guys haven't heard this before, they, it is that kind of thing, right? That's what that is. That's part of the archiving process of everything. And so we can do more pristine covers, we can probably do some stuff that's pretty knock out of the park at this moment, but that wasn't the idea. That wasn't the point. The point was, is we wanted to showcase that there is a fan community driven behind this concept, so much so that they were willing to put their money into a subscription in order to receive this work in print. These guys that here on this team are dedicated their time in order to see that project through, in order to see it to print as well. And that's really important, right? It's important to see that unfold. And the other thing that I wanted to say about COBRA the Enemy is this, is that you would be really surprised who are fans. There are some really big names that are fans that have contributed to this book. Some very, very big names in the comic industry, in the toy industry, in the visual arts industry that have submitted books, submitted covers, submitted drawings, and taken a part in the process. So, and a lot of people don't realize that, but there are some guys that showed their very first work being on these fan comics that are now A-list artists. A couple of them, when I asked them, "Hey, is it okay if we put your work in CPE?" They're like, "That? No, you can't show that." Because they've grown so much since then, they were like, "Absolutely not." But
now,
go ahead.
talking about people going away to other bigger companies, you've got someone who's gone over to Image to do, is it Top Cow? I'm not sure who's picking up the G.I. Joe books over there. Now, Hawk, do you know, can you remember who that was that's just moved over to work with?
Oh gosh, there's several people that have moved over to Marvel and DC over the years, and Image, and there's several people that have gotten here. As a matter of fact, when I had to rebuild the team was basically every single person on the team had gotten a job in comics. Gotten a job with a bigger publisher, and I had like 8 spots I had to fill all at once.
Right.
So I had this big hole in our group, and I think it was just Torrey and myself at that time, wasn't it? I think Torrey just left, but I think it was just he and I, and so I had to go find some people to fill in, and I think that's that current team that we've got right now. Who was the guy that's over on that group now? I think it might be their letterist. I think it might be their letterist is with them right now.
Now, was it did Image pick up G.I. Joe, or did they pick up Transformers?
They picked up both.
Right.
So this is Walking Dead creator. Help me out here.
Right.
Anybody?
Oh, you talking about oh gosh, Robert Kirkman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Robert Kirkman wanted he's been a big fan of G.I. Joe for quite some time, and he wanted to actually do a series, but he wanted to do a combined universe. So that's what he's working on right now, is a combined universe, much like Millerverse that we talked about earlier. Yeah. In our Millerverse, Transformers never show up. That's the one IP we didn't want to mess with. But in his universe, Transformers are a huge part of the identity of where he wants to go. and they're calling that the Energon universe, is what they're calling it. That one. So so there's a couple universes where they've tried to do like a combined universe setting. I think we beat everybody to it long before. It kind of feels like sometimes our ideas are the wheelhouse that people are picking apart, but that's fine. That's fine. I really don't have a problem with it. You know, I think that that's more of a compliment than a discredit. You know.
Yeah, I mean, this thing about like comics, I mean, like, you know, you're always going to have people, you know, choosing to do what they want to do because this is a growing industry. And I think the indies seems to be like where, you know, where the pork seems to be growing, you know, because like, you know, people cut their teeth and stuff. And, you know, like you say, that's where people, you know, learn to grow and upskill and learn from each other. Now, once you're out there, right? Once you're out there, nobody's going to tell you how to do something because they expect you to already know it. And I think that's the difference where you're here, you're getting help. When you're there, like, where's my page?
Yeah, right? Exactly.
You know, you're going to, well, the colorist needs your page right now, and you're behind. Get it sorted. Put down everything. But, you know.
And I think that's kind of like, you know, Hawk with like, I don't know how it is in like all industries, like across the world in comic book industries, but it sort of feels like there is that like hollow point between individual creators doing their own thing off their own bat and the big leagues. Like there's just this nothing. There's like this big donut, and there's like nothing, you know, in between. And so I think that's kind of why like small publishers like this, like, you know, well, Hawk. It's kind of so important because it's like, you know, you get that more gradated scale between, like I said, individuals to companies where it's like, you've got a deadline, there's 3 people waiting to ink, color, and letter your work. Where is it? You need it. And also too, like studios don't have time to put out, like big studios don't have time to put out average stuff, or, you know, what they, you know, it's like, oh, we haven't got time to do this. We want the finished artists, or finished as much as you can be, you know, at the end.
And the other thing is, people don't realize that those books have been completed a while back, right? They've been completed about months ago, and they're just only getting it now, you know. And I think that's a cool thing about actually having the indies, where like you actually, your work is your work, and you will, you know, you either live by the sword or you die by the sword here, and you know. You either fail at this or you don't. And the other thing is, like, you know, when you're there, it's like, you know, you're expected to do that, bringing your A game every single time. And I think that's why we see a lot of people moving away towards indie now, because they've realized that like that isn't what they, you know, they don't feel the same sort of refreshing, or their creativeness they can bring to their own work that they feel they, you know, they're getting there. Because I think there's something about, like, you know, working on a title that you don't have a part in, you know, like that you actually have like that you don't actually, like, you know, Torrey, right? Like you're working on Horse Court, right? So in a Horse Court, you get to bring your whatever you want to bring to it out of your own imagination to whatever the writer's doing, but you still get to bring in your own flavor to it. Now, say you're working and it's somebody else's, you know, that's come before you, has already done all that stuff. Now you're going to have to copy that work to bring it through. And how much of that can you bring through, right? So same thing here when you're going through like CTE and you're going to go back to your work. And I think the cool thing here is that you guys get to move between the two and, you know, bring out each other's, you know, work off each other's skills and actually help each other to actually finish something. Now, what has that been like, the process of actually helping each other to bring, you know, get a work done?
I think that is I think that's what makes the group so strong, because like out of the 5 or 6 years that I've been with the group, very rarely has it been a situation where Hawk is like, this has to be done by next week, you know, because there's so many people and we're all working on some aspect of the book. So I'm not pulling out my hair trying to finish this by next week.
Yeah, I think that's true. But like I said, and at the same time, you've still got that nice balance of being able to like make it a routine and rock up to do the work and to get into that habit, you know, because I know, like, you know, again, like sometimes it is nice to take your time on a page and, you know, we take that, but sometimes it is nice just to think, oh, there's a bit of a, not a deadline, but
just out of respect for the group. Like I try to make sure that I have something every week to present.
Very much so. Like,
yeah, you feel bad if you don't bring something because you want to keep working like everybody else working, even though Hawk doesn't make us bring.
I think there is that part where, like, you know, you do need to get into some sort of routine, because hey, what if somebody picks you up? You know, they're not going to let you. You know, they're not going to say, oh, yeah. And I think there's that other part of it. Like, I mean, like I said, I work with 3 different artists. You know, because you're working on different books at different times, and you know you've got a structure on when that's coming out. I'm always sometimes going, okay, how you guys doing? You know, not like, is it ready?
Touch base
kind of thing, because you still got to touch base and got to make sure that you're, you know, because some weeks as an artist and as a writer, you have that amazing creative flow, right? And you can put down 3-4 pages, and some days you feel like, good, it's so hard to get this, you know, pen on paper or pencil on paper or stylus on digital, right? Pad, because it just isn't working. It's not flowing. And I think those are, you know, when you do get the flow, you do as much as you can, and then we don't, you know, you still try to get a bit something out there. I think that, you know, and this is where I think your guys' team works really well, because, you know, you're always mindful of what everybody else is bringing, even if you don't feel like bringing it, because at the end of the day, you know, you guys are working towards a final goal, which is getting these books out. Plus, not only that, then you got you got subscribers are freaking waiting for these books, and they don't understand that, right? They don't understand the artist's mind. I mean, I can talk about the artist's mind because I know what it's like to run 2-3 different teams, right? And I know where people are at. Like, I mean, like the other week, I slipped my disc, so I was out for a whole week. But at the same time, one of my other guys had fallen down the stairs, right? And I was like, you know, I got to be kitty gloves here, you know, because he could have hurt, could have broken his hand, and I'm out without, you know, I don't have an artist, but like, hey, he could have broken his hand, you know. So what do you mean, the artist, you know? And I think this is something the outside, you know, the reader doesn't see a lot of times, that, you know, when you're working with different people, not only do you have like, because you guys are all over the world, right? You know, Gavin, you're over in Aussie, Torrey, you and Chad are over in America. But I mean, I'm working with guys over in friggin', you know, like Mexico, over in, I think, Spain and America. And I'm trying to get the time right. And the sweet time for me is like middle of the night, which is around 12 at night. I'm like, better check the emails now, you know? And that's the time I want to go to sleep, right? And I'm checking the emails. Oh, why did I check the emails? You know, and now I'm stuck 2 hours from 12 o'clock till 2 o'clock in the morning, lettering a book, you know, a couple of pages that I should have been doing, you know. But I think this is about working on a team. It's like doing stuff sometimes when you don't want to. And
it's like imagine the artists that are in Hawaii dealing with all those fires. You know,
dude,
it's like that is like insane to try to imagine what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And these people still have jobs and and deadlines that they got to deal with on top of that.
Yeah. And losing everything as well. I mean, like we're talking to Marcelo this morning, who's on the Millerverse, you know, Argentina, man. Right?
Oh yeah.
That's like up and down. You don't know who's going to knock on the door next, you know, and that's been happening over the last, you know, 60 years with them. And he's talking about one artist who just, we don't know where he is, right? I think it's Cinder. I think it's Ernie Cinder. Went to the military. Nobody's ever seen him. One of the greatest Argentinian artists, you know.
Wow.
And stuff like that. Like we don't, you know, and this, I mean, the latest, you know, situation we have with Maui, I mean, that's just ridiculous, you know, what's happening there and not getting the help, you know, somebody else getting billions, hundreds of billions, and they get $700 a week. Yeah, thanks. you know, and that's
Yep.
American citizens. I mean, like, seriously, that's just sick to hear that. So enough of that. But you know,
Well,
I think because I can go on a really, really, you know,
I was just going to say it is kind of amazing. We live in this age that, you know,
yeah,
what was it like up until what 1990, like 2000? If you weren't in New York, you weren't in the comic book industry, you know, or maybe, you know, like that was the epicenter, and maybe you could live like on the periphery, but like, and so it's again that kind of nice idea that, you know, even though there aren't many comic book people around you, there are like you can go online and find groups of people to work with, which again, like, you know, it's kind of, you know, amazing.
And
you
you're
know, it could be
correct. We don't think about that a lot. I think the previous generation don't, but we do a lot. I mean, like, I'm sorry, the new generation doesn't because they grew up with it. But we older ones, like I appreciate every single moment of that because I realize that I would not be in comics if I did not have the internet, you know. And I think because it's so much tougher to try to find an artist who's willing to do what, you know, to bring to work with you at the back end, right? A lot of times because of the back end, because unless you're a full-time job yourself, it's really hard to, you know, get somebody to work with you, you know, and work together towards a goal. And I think sometimes having situations like this where, you know, there's books going to be coming out, that there are people around the world looking to buy the books, and you know, and this has been like up to 100 issues. We're close to closing in on 100, or is it finished now, Hawk?
So digitally, we're done at 100 issues. We've shown 100 issues, but we're still in the process of completing those books. So we're somewhere in the 80 range. And, you know, if you're looking for a place to, and I want to throw this in there, if you're looking for a place to buy these, you can read them at risingsuncomics.com. You get previews like this. Now, I want to point out for everyone listening, this is not the full book. Even though there are plenty of pages there, there's always a backup story and there's extras in every issue. So you're not reading the entire story when you get this. There's still more. So there's that aspect of it. And then I also want to tell you that where you find these to purchase is they some comic shops do carry them, but you can also find them at the Rising Sun Publishing Group.com. And you can go to the store there and you can look under COBRA the Enemy and you can actually purchase them there as well. And that's probably the easiest way to get them. Some of the early issues, the ones and some of the 2s and 3s, 4s, some of that stuff is already all sold out. I don't know if we're going to go, I don't think we're going to go back to print on it. I think we're going to hold off where it is. If there's enough demand, we might do a second printing. But I'm more interested in completing what we've set out to do before we go down that road. Again, guys, if you're looking to where do you find this at, let's go to risingsunpublishing.com, Aru, and let's just walk them through that. There you go. Just click on that. There it is. Go to the shop. Boom. And then we're going to scroll down. And then on the left, there's going to be a little tab that says COBRA the Enemy. And you just click right on that, and it's going to bring you up all the issues that are available right now. Okay. And as more come in, we'll be adding those here to the list so that you can actually pick those books up straight off of our website. Okay. So I did want to kind of unfold that, let people know where to get that. If you're interested in joining Rising Sun, if you like what you've heard, we are always willing to work with new people. And you can do that just by going on any one of our websites and send us an email. It'll get to our main email, and then that gets filtered out to our HR department. And I think currently we are still looking for colorists for this team, colorist and maybe an inker. So we're always looking to rebuild and try and help get some of this work done. So if you're interested, we're more than willing to entertain the idea of coming on and working with us.
So this all these books they're out of print, they're available digital, right? So people can actually still be getting them digitally.
Not yet, no. You cannot get these books digitally. Yeah, not yet.
Right.
We do plan on doing a digital release sometime in the future. And I've been holding off on it, honestly, because the truth is that these guys want to get paid for their work, you know?
Yeah.
And Rising Sun doesn't keep any money off of this. This is out of our nonprofit division. That money goes
Right.
back to our artists. It goes back to the guys on this panel. So you support them by buying the books in which they worked on. And you can do that by buying the books from Rising Sun. And that helps support the overall group. And so, you know, that's the best way to go. These books are like 40 pages. So, again, what you're reading online is not the full book. You want the backup stories. You want all the extras that are in with it, so you can get everything.
And that's 40 pages of stories, not 40 pages with about 10 pages of advertising.
Yeah, these things are cram packed full of everything. Like there's comedy, it's a little bit of everything. And what I like to think is that let's say you don't like the first story, you're probably going to like the second one. And if you didn't like either one of those, then there's plenty of stuff in the back of the book that you might like, such as some of the comedy pieces and things like that we put out. There's also pinups in the book. It's meant to be kind of like a G.I. Joe fan book. That's what it is.
Right.
Made for fans by fans. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's just seeing all the different covers and stuff, you know, and art styles. You get to really, you know, appreciate what's been going on for the last, you know, 100 issues or so. And this, like you said, it's a fan comic. You know, it's a comic done by fans that actually love this, you know, this franchise as such. You know, you got some amazing work, and I think that's something that, like, I think a lot of people, you know, the writers on here aren't. It's not much. It's more of a level of love and passion rather than a job thing. And I think in that sense, but like, you know, and then the artists come on, and like Hawk said, you know, you're paying the artists for their work that's been put out here, for the work they're doing. And you know, this is a friggin' amazing cover. This art just on this cover here is brilliant.
Can I just leap in and say as well, people wanting to join, don't feel that you need to know anything about G.I. Joe.
Right.
I know nothing about G.I. Hawk is really good at just saying, no, this is the version we're going with. This is the colors they have. You know, I know nothing about G.I. Joe. I still don't know that much, but I still love working the craft of comics in this genre. And so if you're out there and you're thinking, oh, you know, I don't know anything about G.I. Joe, should I, you know, join? Join. If you like creating comics and you like, you know, don't let that you don't know the lore or the backstory or the characters put you off joining. Hawk will absolutely like help you out.
Yeah.
Plus, you'll get plenty of research.
Yes.
Not only that, you guys don't realize, but he's got a lot of other people he runs to as well. That are actually, you know, just as much as knowledgeable. Like, I mean, I've talked to a couple of the guys, and you know, they're very knowledgeable, and especially the thing with SoCal Joe and going to these conventions.
Yes.
Because the thing about this is, like, you're working on a franchise where that's been loved for around 50 years, right? That is 50 years of history. And this is not Marvel where they can go to Disney and do whatever they want. This is where, like, you'll actually have people that love this thing and they're committed to this. And, you know, the passion shows. And not only that, they've got people same age as them that they meet at conventions, and they are going to be going, so what's this about? You know, Hawkeye doesn't look like, you know, or, you know, and I think that's something that's totally different to, and this is what people don't understand about fandom. There's people that put hundreds of thousands of their own personal money into this fandom. I've watched, you know, I'm looking at like a figure in New Zealand, right, for $50, right? Just a figure. Think about that's just one figure. Think about all these guys who actually collect all that, right? And
And
not only that,
think
all the
about the
comics.
old figures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, everything that's come before them, and they are very devoted to this. And so, you know, and the thing is that these are the guys, you know, that actually love this world, and they enjoy this world, and as passionate people who come to work on this work, you know, you guys are here working on something that's pretty cool that people actually love and are devoted to, and it's not something just fly by night stuff, you know. And I think you know, like Gaston you know, said earlier, you know, good luck with all the projects, because you guys are working really hard all the time on this, and you know, I think it's a great work you're doing. I want to let Hawk take over for a bit. I'm going to step out and find some stuff that I want to show you guys. So Hawk, do you want to take over and carry on with the conversation? Are you there, Hawk? No, he's muted himself.
I'm here, Rick. Go ahead. I'm
all
here.
right, you take over, and I'll be back in a sec.
You know, I what I want to talk about is maybe my process a little bit. And as the editor of the books, I kind of work under this status. Poor planning on my part should never constitute a rush on yours. So I try to hold that true, and I try and preload projects as much as I can, and try and plan releases, you know, with what we've got. And so that's how I kind of run the edit. Family always comes first. I understand that some families need a lot more attention than others. I think that's my family. but I understand that family comes first. So I try and kind of hold to those two. Life is messy, and there's lots of things that go on. But I really appreciate you guys. You know, trying to bring at least a piece a week that helps us move the pen forward, rather than going 6 weeks without nothing. And then, you know, we've had that happen before where we go 6 weeks without anything, and it's like, okay, what do I do? You know, there's a decision that has to be made at that point. You know, haven't been here, haven't brought anything, not even a work in progress. You know, that's a bit of my process in my editorial set. Is I really believe that I should plan, you know, the best that I can to give you guys as much time as you can possibly get. Hopefully that comes through. And for those of you listening out there, I think that when you're creating comics, I think that every project should really be that way. You should be planning with as much time as you possibly can get to make sure that your books are done. How many books have come out where there's only been a single book, and then you never see the rest of the series? Or
that's interesting, because I read a lot more like web comics than traditional comics.
Yeah.
And one of the stories you always see and find is someone will put out 50 pages of just beautiful, brilliant, evocative work, and then they'll just abandon it. And it's like, you know, and this is only like act one of wherever the story was going, you know? And it's like, couldn't you have, you know, made the story shorter, or, you know, like had a complete like piece of work by the end of it? And like there's one web comic, even like it's just completely gone now. I was like following it for a while, you know, things like workload trailed off, and then they just pulled it. They, you know, just said, no, I'm through with this. You know, it was like, and it's such a shame, because it was such a really evocative, like stylistic, intriguing comic, and then they just pulled the pin on it. You know, and you can't even find, like, it's called Judecca, if memory served me correctly, and you can't even find, you can find people like reviewing it and talking about it, but you can't find like the previous work that they did, which is a real shame, I feel.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think that a lot of times, you know, creators disservice themselves, disservice themselves whenever they don't plan it correctly, and give themselves enough time to complete the work. You know, rather than, oh, I've got to get it out right now. You know, and I think this is very much a Rising Sun thing. We've got a policy in place that there has to be 3 in the can before the first one drops. You know,
Yeah.
before the first one is released. Because the last thing
And
you want is a reader base that's unhappy and can't get
Yeah.
can't get their books. Trust me, I've experienced that. I've definitely been on the end of that.
that one, yeah. Yeah. Well, like I said, it's just like that workload. And even like I said, with webcomics, like there's hiatuses and like long breaks, and the workload can be a bit erratic. But then like, some of them, they just pull the plug on it. And it's like, couldn't you have given me like a short 20 page work so I can at least say, aha, it's a complete, story, instead of like this really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
I like
lots of
those.
threads opening act. Yeah, go on.
I like those hidden gems that you stumble upon, like
Mm.
the ones like you didn't see any advertising for, and you stumble upon it, and it's one of the best books you've ever read.
Yeah.
Like that's what I search for. Like when I'm looking for comics, that next hidden gem.
Yeah.
I like that too.
Yeah. Well, actually, one webcomic, I'm following it like for years, and it's really great because she's on the home. She's one of the artists that's really just dedicated to the craft. Is Unsounded. I don't know if you ever heard of. It's a free webcomic. You should check it out. It's just she's I can't remember the artist's name, but she's just it's hundreds and hundreds of free pages of free content in this story, and she is workload, get it out there, really dedicated. Because we were just saying before that web comics can be a bit sometimes they'll just pull it, but she's just
I think I've done that with Incredigo, right? We've got like Incredigo issue 1 and 2 web comic. It's available on Plunge Comics, but like I don't want that to be the first thing that went into print to represent my character. So so I didn't want I don't want to like say, hey, this is what I have to put as my best foot forward. And I think a lot of times I think webcomic people are like that. I think webcomic, you can put as much effort into it as possible, and you can, and because you're giving away free, so there's the idea that you're giving away something free. You're not going to put your 100% into it in the sense, but also you're not cleaning it up as much. I think for me, when I, last year we put out a web comic and went, okay, I'll just, while we're talking about web comics, as someone who's doing web comics, right? So let me share this with you. Yeah. So, so we put this out, and I went and did this, and I put a print comic version of this out last year for our convention. And let me get to the cover. Where's the cover? Give me the cover. Right. So this is the web, the cover for the variant kind of thing we're doing. And it started this way back in about 2009, I think, or it might have been 2007. And so we get it out. I get it in print. There were about 40, 50 copies of it. Sell about 12 at the convention, right? It's just my own our own convention. And so, everybody else is there. We just sign away, a dozen. But I come away home and I'm thinking, wait, is this what I want to be in the world as my first issue? Right? Yeah. Is this how I want people to come and see my? And I'm not begging on the art. I'm not begging on the story or anything like that, because I'm telling lots of stories, because this page is going out once a week. So I want to make sure there's enough for your, if you're buying it, it's got to be worth your value, right?
Yeah.
But also, if you're coming to it, reading it once a week, and I'm putting one page out, there's got to be enough information for you to take away and mull over the week when you come back for the next page. And this is the difference between having a comic that goes out once a month to a web comic that comes out once a week, a page, right? And so I'm the guy who I didn't do the artwork on this, but I did do the coloring and stuff like that. I did the gradients, tones and stuff, and I did the lettering and stuff. So I'm very, I'm contemplating. I'm going, okay, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to redo it in a way that I feel comfortable with, knowing that this is going to go all over the world, and people are actually going to put their money on it. You know,
Yeah.
as that, because I don't want people to get something that I'm not valuing myself. And I'm like, we're talking about like imposter syndrome, right? I'm more like the critical syndrome, right? I got to make it as critical of my work as possible, because if I'm picking up a book, you know, like say, hold on. If I'm going to the shop and I'm picking up this, right? This issue here, right? This has got to be, you know, something that's got to be worth. Let me just grab this onto solo. So if I'm picking this up, right, I have to make sure this is worth every cent on this book. You know, that the value I'm getting is worth every cent.
Yeah.
And
So
so
how can you expect someone else to believe in it if you don't believe in it?
exactly, you know, and so, and I think this is the problem I have with like, you know, with like the mainstream, right? And I'm very critical with some creatives, but I'm also more critical of my own work, right? Because I expect if I'm putting, like for us in New Zealand, that's worth about $9, right? That's about half an hour's work. So because we get about $23 an hour or something like that for us, because that's around about $15 an hour US, I think. So if I'm putting that sort of money and I've got somebody putting $10 down for a book, each page has to be worth that, you know, that value. And I think we, when you come from a web comic background and you go, right, it's okay giving away free stuff. People aren't going to judge you so hard when it's free. But, you know, I think there is a semblance where people have to pay for the work. And I think you gotta think about how much effort you put in yourself, because there is a collectability to everything you do. And comics have gone from being like read and throw away or toss aside, you know, like newspaper, to where people actually will hold on to that for decades, for years, you know. It's something that they will go, this is, you know, and I want that to be my work. You know, I want this is, you know, that somebody there holds on and goes, this was the #1 issue of such and such, you know. And so, you know, when we went and did the Kickstarter for it, I was like, all right, you know, if I'm going to change this, I want to get someone whose work I enjoy, who I think will really work and make it pop, and would actually bring this, you know, bring their A game to this work. And so I think we did that, right? And I think we actually show people that this is how I want this web comic, which is no longer web. I mean, the web comics they have to read, yeah, sure, but this is how I want to be represented now, right? I want people to go, you know, this is what, you know, it's classy, it's value, it's color, it's, you know, it's all these characters represented the way that I want to them, you know. I you know, I get my you know, artists from America, I get my colorists from Mexico, you know, Hugo and Kevin, and I go, let's go, and you know, let's bring our A game to this book. And you know, and I think sometimes there is also a devaluing of webcomics, because hey, it's free, so it's not really that. But I think even though it's free, we spent a lot of time on each page of that webcomic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I rewrote it after about a decade, you know, 15 years later. I rewrote the story from a simple little, you know, story to like history of Romania and bringing people to understand what it was like in the 90s and 80s in Romania, that sort of stuff. And there's a lot of research, like we talked about earlier with Torrey, right? About how people only see 30% of what's on the page, not the 70%. I'm here researching Romania, you know, and all you know is like, oh, she's a Romania, you know, she's a Romanian. I'm like, and then what if somebody goes to me and goes, so what was the setting and what's going on with this page? I go, yeah, well, during Ceausescu's era, he would grab all the parents and shove all the, you know, orphans of these political prisoners and artists and musicians into orphanages, right? And this is what would happen. That they would be fatherless and motherless, and then he would go and kill their parents. And now you got all these orphans, and this is where it's from. So I can say that, right, because I've researched that. Just like, you know, what Tori was saying about Greek and Greek mythology and looking at all that.
I always think
So-
like
Yeah, I
comic
think
book
I think I could probably teach a class on Greek mythology now.
yeah, it must
That's,
be just
that's the
like,
thing, right? Because you're not just an artist anymore, because you're doing a lot of research into your subject matter, because you want to share why you put those things there, right? Why
Yeah.
that place is there, why the pavilion looks like that, why the buildings look like that, because they're actually real buildings and real things in part of history.
Yeah, and just like the landscape, and you don't want like an evergreen tree on the side of a Greek mountain. You know, you want it to look historically as accurate as possible.
Exactly. And you want to make, you don't want to like, and the other thing is like what I was talking about on my end, I don't want to like feel like I'm ripping people off when I'm doing the work. And, and I think as a writer, I want to make sure I know my subject as much as possible, and it's important for us to, as people working in this medium, to show our love for it, as well as people, being able to share in that love for it. And I think this is why I think like when we see stuff like this, it's just so important to actually, get as right as we can. As much as it's fantasy, it is something that we actually, bring to the table that's different to Spider-Man, that's different to Batman, that's different to X-Men and stuff like that. And when you see stuff like this, it's like you were saying, I want to pick up that one book that stands out that isn't even being advertised or something like that. The other thing I was going to talk about, like with the history and stuff, I've got stuff from G.I. Joe that just from shopping around that I haven't actually got, because it's just the weird thing, right? Like, because these things have been around for years, like from the movies and stuff, and so you guys get to actually write the stories as part of all this, and bring G.I. Joe to the masses as such, as well as to people who actually, get to read these amazing stories you guys are working on. So let's head back to G.I. Joe, and I want to, let me see if I can bring up some other CTE books here, and I'll let Hawk carry on with his. We're talking to you guys about all the projects and stuff that you guys got upcoming and future works, as well as the past. Oh, is he muted?
I'm unmuted now. So I think I'm kind of curious. So out of the guys that have worked on it, so what is your favorite books that you've seen so far? I know that's a tough question. So out of the group here, is there one that you really remember as really liking versus the story, the plot, the artwork, or any of that? Is there one that really stands out for you?
you mean on the ones like we've worked on, like ourselves?
Are you
Yeah, go-
asking? Are you asking us?
Or are you
Yeah.
asking-
I'm asking you guys.
Oh man, that's like asking me which one of my kids I like the most. I don't know. I gotta think for a second.
Well, my favorite is the one I'm working on right now, CT84, the Twilight of the Toxic Zombies. Just cause like you said, I love horror stuff. I really like the story and the artwork and where the story is going. It's a big book to me, 22 or 23 pages, so it's taken me a little while, but I'm really liking it so far.
So I guess Gaston actually inked that. So you had Gaston Pachero who commented on it. He's actually the inker on that book that Chad's working on right now. This one for me is probably my favorite. But this is the reason why this one's my favorite is 99 and 100 is because at my core I'm a designer, and I designed. We normally, this is something we don't do. We usually don't create our own characters inside the CTE comic books. We use pre-existing characters that are already made by other people. So every once in a while, we might get one new character that's just needed for the plot. Like I think there's a new character now in that book that Chad's working on. This one's my favorite because I broke that rule on issue 99 and issue 100, and I got to design some characters of my own. So these characters are actually part of the October Guard, and I got them. I was able to actually put them in a story, and here they are coming to life, and that's wonderful to me. That's wonderful to me to see them come to life inside a world that I love so much, and that my characters are actually are turning into real life. So I designed them as toys, and here they are again. Now they're in life, involved in a mission. So that I think that's why I really like it so much.
I also just like to say that I was like the biggest Snake Eyes fan since I was little.
Yeah.
My first 3 books, I didn't have any Snake Eyes. I was just hoping I would get me a Snake Eyes, but I didn't say anything. So I finally got the colored Snake Eyes, and I think issue 80.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just felt so good to be able to color somebody that I've grown up watching and loved as a kid.
So did you say 80? Whoops. Let me.
Yes,
I want to see if it'll pop out like that way. Pop out as that. Here we go. So
Actually, while you're doing that, I'm afraid I think I'm going to have to leave you now. Yeah, so great
right.
chatting to you.
Thank you for joining us, Gavin. Really appreciate it, mate.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
All right. So did you color the cover as well, or is it somebody else with the cover?
No, I didn't color the cover.
Yeah, so I was just because it doesn't look like your style. So I was just wanted to check. Now, let me see if I've got AG.
So Aru, those pages that are loaded into his folder, some of those are these pages that you're looking at now. These are just inks, but there's some colored pages inside that folder that show off this work. This is the work with the texture on it.
Right. So let me just have a look. Because the one I've got is under Torrey's folder. It is not giving me any. The only ones I've got is this one.
Look under Chad's. Look in Chad's folder.
Okay.
It'll be in there.
So are you talking about like the page work, or are you talking about the color work?
The color work in Chad's folder.
Okay, so let's look.
So I think is it listed in here?
I'm not sure if this is this one of the pages you're talking about, or because I only have these ones.
Yeah, I think that's the 80.
Yeah, you got one with Snake Eyes around on the front.
Yes, that's the 80. That's CC 80 right there.
So is this one that this is one of your inked works there, Torrey, or is it somebody else's inked work we're looking at here?
No, that's not my ink work.
Yeah. No, let me see. So no, I don't have any of those pages.
Yes, that's that page. I colored that page right there you have up.
All right, this is yours, Chad.
Yes, that's the one I was talking about. I got the color Snake Eyes, what I feel good about. Yeah.
Cool. All right, let me just bring that higher up so we can see that. This is what I'm trying to get between the two. Yeah, I mean, we talked about your texture work earlier. Yeah, this really shows off your texture work, and no, that's cool, isn't it? Like, I mean, like you get to work on characters that you actually like. You know.
I know.
I mean, it's being a writer. I get to create characters, and I get to see artists draw those characters. That's my pleasure. It's like the thing that was in my head is now over here, and then having it colored like Hugo going, it's like so much more than it was when it was just black or white. And that's why I appreciate color. But I mean, not saying that the ink isn't great. It's just like, it's just that, pops it out so much more, and you get to see something like that. I think being part of something like this where you actually love the character and draw it. I mean, did you ask, like you're saying, you got it, but were you hoping to get it?
Oh, I was hoping real bad. I didn't say anything at all. I was just, because I'm new, so I don't say nothing. I just
Yeah.
take what I get. But I was hoping I got one with snake eyes in it, so I finally got me one.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is there any other favorites? But I think you should say so, though, just in case you get, I don't know, miss out on it. But like Torrey, is there any favorites
well,
that you're working on?
Just like past issues,
Yeah.
90, COBRA the Enemy number 90. I like that one. I think that was a really well done book. And of course I gotta go with the Tall Tales that I did, my first book. That's always gonna have a spot in my heart.
So, given by like how many years you worked on with these books, so how many issues have you been able to work on with them, CTE and Tall Tales?
That I've given my input in.
Oh, or actually didn't either or. Like if you've done artwork on it, or if you been part of the process of getting it done. Because this is issue 90 here. So are these your inks here, or?
No, these are not my inks. I just thought the book was really, it was well done.
Right.
Especially the cover.
Right.
Yeah.
It's good. It's cool.
Yeah.
I actually have that plane. I didn't realize it was that's what I was looking for before. The jet. I actually have the gun part. Like it's it's got a handle on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it kind of cocks. It's like weird. Like I didn't realize it was part of the whole G.I. Joe thing until somebody said, hey, that's actually this. I went, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we've got another let's say another 15 more minutes of this. Do you guys want to promote any other projects you're working on or anything else that's upcoming, Hawk?
Oh, we've got so much that's coming at us. Tons of stuff. Let's see, which one do we even talk about? We've got actually distribution is going to pick up here pretty soon, as we were able to kind of unglue a few things. And for those of you that don't know, that we had a partnership with GMC, and we were able to finally get that moving again. So that partnership with GMC has been fulfilled. So books are going out with GMC, and we're happy to get that finished and done. So that's the Action Force Redux project. So hopefully that's getting in your hands pretty quick, and then we're hoping that we can get back to getting CTE in everyone's hands pretty quick. We also have Kickstarters that we were a part of. After Action Report. Those are comic collecting guides for G.I. Joe comics, written by Roger Taft and Josh Eggebin. You can go check those out. Those are actually coming in soon as well. So got a lot of product actually coming in soon that's going to be shifted into the hands of our readers. Current coming up projects, there's quite a few, but I don't want to get too deep into stuff without showing some visuals. Obviously, here today you've seen Horse God, and Torrey is working on Horse God issue 3 right now. It's a 6-part series. So whenever that's finished, we're gonna get that out there. And I'm pretty certain. I think Chad has already kind of said that he wanted to do the color work on the covers. So it'll be a black and white book, but Chad's going to do the color covers for it, I think. And then We've got, obviously, if you don't know, we've got Incredigrow Kickstarter, in which we are currently working to try and get that finished, polished off, get it into everyone's hands. And then we're going to go back and we're going to clean up some things that we probably got messed up on and a little wrong. So if you were part of our Collapse Kickstarter, we're actually going to go back and clean that up a little bit and hopefully get that game out to you guys, get a few things out to those supporters that are part of that project. I don't want to go look at that arena, but I do want to look at Incredigrow right here.
Yeah,
So this is
so
the Incredigrow Kickstarter. Go ahead.
yeah, you talk about that, and I'm going to bring up some pages and what we've been doing with that, because like this is like an all ages book. That's what's on Rising Sun Comics, under their banner on the Kickstarter, because we ourselves do a lot of mature content books, right? Like for mature readers. So that's going to come under our own banner, which is under Plunge Studios New Zealand page, so that we can keep all ages over there and mature comics over on the other side. So I want to put up a couple stuff that we've been doing at the moment, that trying to get because we've got this book has to be fulfilled by February, but we did a lot of work that is to do with actually drawing people in from our Kickstarter. Like we sold about three high tier items, which was $150, $100, where you got to get drawn in as a character in the book, and then also you got to be drawn in and also get a speaking part, as well as do have an article or an interview or a half-page advert from the backers to do that. So we've been working towards that, and so this last week we had the work come in, and so we had let me just grab the work here, and
This is your original character.
Yeah, this is Incredigrow, created for my little niece, who was only 4 at that time in 2007. She's 19 now. She grew up in that time into a mature young lady, and the cool thing is, this character is around about 20. So by the time this character comes into print, right, she's the same age as she is now, and which kind of, in a way, feels like a blessing as well as a curse, because it's taken so long, But I think, it's so cool to work with some great people behind it. So I'm going to show you.
So guys, if you've been wondering where James has been at, he's been over here.
Right.
So James Hill.
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, he's doing my covers for me, and he's working on books with me. So he's done a couple. We're just stealing him away from another project, which he's working on, which is a mature comic, which is called Templeton. But where is that page gone? 17. Nope, that's the old one. Let me just find the new one.
And since we're waiting on that, James, if you're watching this, you got to get back over and finish that mini CTE book.
I'm sorry, but no. You'll never see James ever again. And I'm being serious. I'm not lying here. You will never see James ever again. He is going to be with me forever and ever and ever. Amen. So be it. Right. So here's one of the works. So like that we're looking at placing people in. So I'm looking at the page where I'm going to put the character in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm the best place for it, because we've already drawn all the places we've got to go. So page 16 and 17 was a really cool action scene sequence and I went, okay, Kevin, here, this area here is where I want somebody in, and then I also went, the next one, here's where I want you on the next one with, because, we had a character, and I said, here's a choice. You can either go here or here, right? And so, because we want to put in the middle of what's going on. And, because it's one of those moments I did, in superhero comics and movies, we never look at the little guy on the road who gets hurt. And so I wanted these 2 pages in the middle of the book to go, this is the little guys, while they're fighting away, the villains are doing their thing. Little, people, bystanders are getting hurt and stuff, or even like medical, like emergency stuff are getting hurt. and so they're just taken care of by the emergency people. While the villain gets in a fight, or the hero tries to take out the villain. And I kind of wanted that sort of like that, more like a personal feel to it, rather than just like, okay, let's have big huge fights going on everywhere. And so I wanted to put these guys into that. So like we had these backers that came through for us, which was really huge because for me, for doing a thing first time, right? We went from like $10 to $150, right? And so you had this $150 tier, and you got to be able to be in it, as well as get a half page advert or whatever you wanted. And this is James' work here he did for me as a cover, along with Kevin. So we got to use different variances of the cover and put it in different ways, because we had like foil covers, and as well as like spot foil. We had posters done up, and we had the actual coloring on this is myself, and design work is all me.
I like
But
the all black.
yeah, it's sometimes it just stands out. I did it kind of like a t-shirt, because I'm a t-shirt guy, right? I have a collection of t-shirts, at least about a couple hundred of them. And so, this is Hugo here from Mexico doing the color work on this based off my flats. I just said, here's the flat tones where you want, and work on that. So it's bringing that to life as the main poster. But then I went, it'd be cool to have a cover, but we didn't end up doing a cover. We might do it for the second issue or the third issue. But, you've got like a 2-page spread here by you, Kevin. But the cool thing about it is that we said, oh, you know what, we'll do trading cards, right? And so we had Kevin do a whole bunch of trading cards as well for characters that are coming out. And so Templeton Twins, they appear in here like early on, but they're part of the Templeton series that we're doing, which is Rise and Fall, which is about heaven and hell, with like demons and angels and soul collectors. So that's a mature book, a lot of mature content in that. So we didn't want to put it part of this, like it's part of this universe, but you only get to read it if you're that age group, right? But it's we get to have some amazing, the cool thing about this was that we only went for 900, because it was just to get the book done and pay the artist. But we had all the tiers were fulfilled, right? At least one person got a tier, every single tier from $10 all the way, or should we say like about like a digital comic all the way, from $3 all the way to $150. Every single one was hit. So we're in the middle of making sure that the artwork's done, it's finalized, and then I'll be sending it over to Hawk and going, they're ready for publishing. And myself, Hugo, and Kevin will be looking over everything, making sure there's no errors and stuff, no spell checks. I have concussion issues, so I don't see, sometimes I don't see the words, and I miss out words, and I get like the words don't even exist there on that page, right? Because I've already said it in my head, so I expect it to be there, but they're not there. So I get, Kevin looks over my work and makes sure that we've got it right. Forget about spell checking, but actual words missing. So, it's good to have people that you work as a team on. And that's why I enjoy working with a team, because you get someone to, keep an eye on what's going on, making sure that you're putting out as good of work as possible.
Yeah.
So I'm quite excited. This is like, so once we're, everything's sorted, we just got to get the artwork ready for publishing. These are all the covers that we did for it. The Virgin cover, you got my friend, these yellow covers here. They're from a New Zealand artist, Shane Evans, who's a longtime friend of mine, one of my best friends. And then we had Kevin, his own, cover A, the Virgin print, as well as the, with the letters, titles and everything, words. And then you have the white background that we did especially because this year, because we actually run our own convention here in New Zealand, which for the last 5 years, we've done it every year for the last 5 years. And even through COVID, right? 2 years of COVID, we did it. So part of what you guys do in the US and part of what people all around the world do is subscribe, and buy comics from Rising Sun. Now, that also goes, for my part of it, I put that money into running the convention here, where we can showcase the books from you guys, right? CTE books, we put them in there. We put in all the other Rising Sun comics, on the stall. and people get to see your books that might never have seen before, but here in New Zealand. And so we've been doing that for the last 5 years, and and so I'm kind of hoping that when these books are printed, they get into once they're done their 100-issue run, they get trades, and then you get you put in like 4-issue trades because they're 40 pages each, right? So 120 pages like a friggin' trade paperback. So they come as trade paperbacks, and I'm hoping that we can get to a stage where not only are there conventions, but they're actually in libraries around the world, right? So that people actually are able to read them at their schools.
Yes.
Because trades work better, having them at schools and at libraries and bookshops than just a floppy, because you put your clear seals on them, and they get ISBN numbers, and they're there, and kids from all over the world get to read it. And I'm hoping that this is where we end up with all CTU books. I know that that's what I want for all my work, right? But I also want that for every single Rising Sun comic as well. Once you get your arc out, the arc gets into a trade or gets into hardcover, because like anybody else, right, Kickstarter is working as a great thing for indie creators. And once people know what's going on, they get the single issues. It's in the comic shops. It's at the trades, at the conventions, I should say, right? Then we'll work towards the trade paperback, or we work towards like a 20-issue hardcover or something like that, because people want collections. Like I was watching going on a tangent here, but like I was watching a John Delarose, right, who's a writer himself, who I've interviewed here. This morning he was talking about Top Cow, right? He was talking about Top Cow and how he's a collector of Top Cow comics because he loves that stuff. So am I, right? Rising Stars, right? One of my first a proper introduction to Top Cow, indie publisher. So Rising Stars is done by J. Marcus Straczynski. Now, the only reason I bought J. Marcus Straczynski, is because, hold on, hopefully I don't break it, is because I'm a Babylon 5 fan, right? So being a Babylon 5 fan, seeing someone like JMS write comics for Joe Comics for Top Cow, I'm buying all the Top Cow comics I can get my hands on, right? And I'm buying Midnight Nations, and I'm buying the hardcover. I'm buying the Leatherbound Volume 1. I'm getting all the variant issues, variant covers, right? Now, we have a pleasure of doing our own thing, because as indie creators, we don't have to listen to anybody out there telling us how we got to do our books. The sad part about what John was talking about today was that John, because he loves it so much, and he's putting out all his hardcovers, right? Big chunky hardcovers of all these books I've just named, plus others like Aphrodite X and so on, stuff I love, right? Because I love that whole everything they put out through Top Cow. And so he does this little review, and says how good and amazing, and it goes out, and Top Cow loves it. They share it and they talk about it. Next thing you know, handful of people start bashing Top Cow because the fact that they shared John's work on reviewing their books and how excited was their work. All positive, nothing negative. So they start attacking Top Cow and attacking John to stop them sharing the positive work, right? The positive stuff about Top Cow,
right?
How the amazing books were put out. Now, this is John, who spent $1,000 of his own personal money backing their Kickstarters, right? And the Witchblade, like hardcover Witchblade things. I've got Witchblade #1 right up there, right? And he's like, are you gonna? Yeah. And so they bowed, right? Top Cow bowed because 10 people, right, on Twitter start going off at them. Like, do you realize those 10 people, not one of them will spend $1,000 on a Top Cow book? And I think this is where we stand, is like, we can do whatever we want and put out amazing stuff, and just get to listen to the people and just put out work that we can. And I think we have this opportunity to use Kickstarter, to use all these after social media to benefit our work, right? By sharing each other's work and by promoting, by reviewing. I get to interview someone like John Del Ros, who's a creator himself, and a writer himself, and a novelist, and a comic book creator, but he's promoting other people, right? And and I think the joy about being in the indie scene is that we can either work together or we can work against each other. And I think the joy here is that we can, because we have this amazing middle ground, we can actually just work with each other, where we can actually help each other out and not listen to the one or two people that will never buy the book, or listen to the guy who just spent $1,000, American grand, that's $1,600 New Zealand, right, on your work, and will back your projects. Like, he doesn't have to spend that $1,000 on yours because he's got his own work he's got to get out, right? But and I think this is sadness of the mainstream right now, is that you've got people who just want to bring down the indies, but we also have the opportunity to uplift the indies by doing amazing work and by promoting what's out here.
I agree.
All right, with that tangent, I want to thank you guys for joining me. Sorry about that, but I just felt it was fresh on my mind, and I think that we got to help each other out here and help each other grow and promote each other and do stuff like this. And hopefully somebody's out there watching and wants to get into comics, and we'll be able to reach out to Rising Sun to do that. And so I want to put the link up again, and we're going to close off here. So send an email through to HR. I think it is at hr@risingsuncomics@gmail, something like that. But I'm sure we'll, if you just go to the website here, you guys will be able to see that. Now I want to thank you guys both. I'll give Hawk there the final word, and I'll come back and say goodbye to everybody. But thank you guys for joining me. Hawk, take it away.
Thank you for having us.
All good, man. Thank you.
So guys, could you throw in the chat if you want them to get a hold of any of these people listening, how to get a hold of you or where to find you at? So Chad, Torrey, if anyone's looking for commissions or anything like that, if you could put a link or give us something to post in there for that. I wanted to thank you guys for taking the time. Aru, thank you for taking the time. Please support indie. Go to risingsuncomics.com and risingsunpublishinggroup.com, and you can actually find our store there. You can find these books there. But if you don't like those books, there are other books in our pantheon that you might like. Look through them. There's plenty of good ones. I'm certain we're going to talk about them eventually. And then also, if there's so many other indie publishers out there, so please support indie. Buying a book is like giving them a hug. Thank you all very much. Thank you for the time. Hopefully we made it a little more clear to all of these amazing things out there. We want to give a shout out to all of those people that actually commented on here. Larry over at Niobe, thank you very much for joining and watching us. Patrick, who has been a writer of ours, he wrote several series. Patrick Daniel, thanks Patrick for jumping in, and of course guest star who is a inker extraordinaire. So if you're looking for some inking work, he's the guy to contact. So thank you guys for the posts, and I think that's got us all covered. So
awesome. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Torrey. Hey, look, I do this, which is like, I forgot this morning because I had a massive headache. I forgot to ask Marcella to do this, but I'm going to actually Torrey first and then Chad next. Final words, you get about 3 to 5 minutes to words of inspiration or anything you want to say, and we'll start with you, Torrey, and then we'll get you to, get Chad up next after that.
I'd just like to say that if you are a comic creator or you would like to be a comic creator, don't talk yourself out of it. Don't discourage yourself. Just there's different levels of comic creators, and don't be discouraged if you don't know a lot. Um, Somebody is always willing to teach you, or you can always learn from others, and just follow your dreams, basically.
Awesome. Thank you. Um, now I'll get the teacher on, right? So give me 1 second. My screen just went blank, and I'm just trying to figure out what's going on there. Oh, I see what happened. 1 second. Gosh, where did you go? I think it timed out on me, but here we go. I got you back. All right. Technical issues are over. Chad, please, your final words.
Yeah, I'm like the same as Torrey. Like, I came in with no knowledge. I never thought I would be coloring comic books, but I just gave it a shot, and people will help you. I've learned so much and just learned so much doing this and just taking input and taking criticism and watching and listening, and just keep working, keep practicing, perfect your craft, and just keep getting better. And I can see improvement within every page, every book. I see improvement in my work without even really noticing it from the beginning. So yeah, just keep working and keep trying your best. And if that's something you want to do, go for it. Always go for what you want to do.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right. With that, thank you for joining us. I know it was a long one, and I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We're looking forward to tomorrow. We've got Big Stu with us from Borgia, Texas, when we're going to do our weekly midday for me, but like I think it's about 7 o'clock for the US, and so on. Unboxing. We've got a toy collecting and unboxing. I have a big box that's arrived, and we're going to look through that, and also join us for other pop culture stuff, as well as we talk about. Oh, I should mention, for comic fans, the Eternaut, right? The Eternaut is going to be a TV series, live action TV series on Netflix. They put out teasers, and Marcelo was just telling me the Eternaut. Let me just get the correct name for that so I don't mess it up here. But I was quite excited to see another, especially from Argentina, right? It's going to be coming out, and it's I think it's El Eternaut they're going to put it as, but it's a Eternauta, right? So here's a link for that if you guys want to check it out. It's on IMDb. It is. It looks, it's a sci-fi alien invasion type thing.
And you say it's going to be on Netflix?
Yeah, man. I'm like,
okay.
Yeah, it's brand new, and they did it, like they did teaser reels and stuff like that. So I'm gonna, we're gonna talk about that tomorrow. But this is something I didn't expect. It was just kind of announced 3 months ago, and we only just saw it. But yeah, it's a sci-fi comic book alien thing, and its storyline is this, and just before, so it's action adventure drama, but it looks like it's going to be, if they do it in accordance to what they how loyal they are to the book. I think I read a few years back, but I'm going to have to look it up again. So basically, guys, follows Juan Salvo along with a group of survivors as they battle an alien threat that is under the direction of an invisible force after a horrific snowfall claims the lives of millions of people. That's something totally different, right? You got snowfall killing millions of people, right? So yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. What's a train that goes around, and there's people living on that train forever?
Oh, the Snowpiercer. That's it.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's got that look, feel to it. A winter wonderland kind of thing, or dystopia, I should say. You don't often get winter dystopias stories, and that's the only thing I could remember was that the only winter one I could think of. But yeah, this looks like it's going to be something magical, and I'm the teasers they put out on just the people reading the, like, like kind of like the reading room where they read the dialogue with each other. It feels really cool. But they reckon, I think it's something probably be in the next year or so by the time they get it out. But they've done some teaser videos of it, and just to say this is what it's going to look like, and it's really, really amazing. I'm quite excited because you don't get to see foreign movies based on, like, series based on like the comic book, so you get to appreciate it when you do see it. So this is it here. Let me just.
Hey guys, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I'm
right,
gonna have to get up. But I just wanted to say, Anakin Skywalker lives forever.
forever eternal.
All right, bye.
All right,
everyone.
guys. So that's just in case you don't want to know where it is, where you can find it. That's the way it is. But I'm gonna let me just find out who was the artist on this, just to make sure. So yeah, Hector Herman, I think it's G's pronounced Herman, Osterheld and Lopez. So yeah. But once you see the book, you'll know. I as soon as I saw the cover of it, I was like, I know this book. But yeah. All right, guys. Thank you. Kakiteano, wherever you are, be well, be safe, and we'll see you tomorrow. And for Torrey and Chad, and also Gavin, who had to pop out early, and Hawk, thank you guys for joining us.
Thanks for having us again.
Thank you for having us on. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Catch up next time. See ya.
All right.